Parents are gathering at City Hall this morning in a demonstration aimed at the province. Parents calling for assurances there will be in-class learning when school resumes in September. Now, City News reporter Alex Gout is live at City Hall this morning and joins us with the latest. Alex.
Andrew, the rally is expected to start any moment, and there's dozens of people with signs gathered. They're calling for a province-wide call to action by a Coalition of Kids 2021 for reopening Ontario, and it's calling for a full in-time, in-class learning for students in Ontario. People are expected to speak, including Ottawa Centre NDP MPP Joel Harden, and it's expected to begin any moment. Reporting live from City Hall, Alex Gouge, City News.
City News time 9:01, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
An unsettled stretch of weather moves in. We've got some wet weather today, mainly for the afternoon. A gusty southwest wind. High 24 will feel like 28. Scattered showers and thunderstorms tonight and at times for Saturday as well. Sunday, Father's Day, should feature lots of sunshine. For today, the high 24.
And right now in both Ottawa and Smiths Falls, it's 17 degrees. Well, reaction to this new federal guidance on the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine ranges from frustration to confusion, to an eye roll and relief at being vaccinated at all. This as the National Advisory Committee on Immunization has announced the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines are preferred over AstraZeneca for that all-important second shot needed for the most effective immunity against the virus.
Word that mRNA-type Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are preferred for a second shot comes weeks after about 2 million AstraZeneca recipients were assured the choice was theirs, and the best shot was the first one they could get. One recipient says she's tried to follow the rules and now feels like she's made a mistake. Others worry that rather than opening doors, their double dose of AstraZeneca will limit travel options or access to events. Health officials say AstraZeneca is still great, but new evidence shows a second dose of an mRNA vaccine gives even better immunity. Beth Layton, The Canadian Press.
City News time 9:02. Well, we should be finding out today what the federal government's plan is for the Canada-U.S. border. The current restrictions will be expiring on Monday. Now, Prime Minister Trudeau is set for a news briefing later on this morning. Is still in quarantine at Rideau Cottage following his trip overseas, and there may be some clarity on vaccine passports as well. Here's our senior business editor, Mike Eppel.
The CBC reports there will be a new feature on the Arrive Canada app that'll go live next month with the first phase of its vaccine certification program. The app will allow travelers to take a photo or upload a snapshot of their vaccine documentation before going through customs. Sources tell the CBC the information stays in the app and isn't transferred anywhere else, avoiding any concerns about privacy. The update to the app would allow for the government to start easing travel restrictions following other countries after the European Union this morning announced it is lifting restrictions for travelers from the U.S. with vaccine certification. The CBC reports Prime Minister Justin Trudeau met with the premiers virtually from across the country last night, most of the discussion focusing on next steps to reopen the border, and all agreeing that being fully vaccinated was the key. At the Business Centre, Mike Eppel.
And I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Your opinion.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Friday. We made it. Last Friday is spring. Summer officially begins in 2 days and 14 hours. Another record-breaking Lotto Max draw tonight. 70, count them, $71 million prizes. I mean, they're just giving them away. How can I not win one? Good luck and good morning. Welcome to the Rob Snow Show. All my radio friends are on the show today. They really are. In just a few minutes from now, we'll get the hot take on the big news from the legendary Lowell Green. We'll look back at a week's worth of headlines with Bourque, Pierre Bourque from Bourque Newswatch. One of Ottawa's great writers, one of Ottawa's great storytellers, a heck of a broadcaster, too. Ron Corbett on our show this morning. You know, he has Ottawa Press and Publishing, and he's going to give us some best bets for local reads With summer just a few days away, he's going to have some great suggestions for us, I would imagine. And that's just the first hour. Sports coverage today. What a day, what a weekend. Big soccer game this afternoon. England, Scotland. I might even watch that one. Habs, Golden Knights tonight. That series all tied up. I mean, there's my Friday afternoon, my Friday night. U.S. Open golf on television. I may just kiss Jennifer goodbye. Say, I'll see you on Monday. It's all good. We talk about it all with Steve Warne from the Sens Nation podcast in the 11 o'clock hour, and then we'll wrap up our show with our panel of MPPs during the Queen's Park Week in Review. I mean, in Ontario politics, it was a history-making week. We had Doug Ford using the notwithstanding clause. I'm sure that's going to come up. And there's a new attack ad. It's an NDP attack ad. It's not from a special interest group. It's from the Ontario New Democrats, and it's interesting because it's not attacking Doug Ford. Roll tape.
This guy, he's got to go. But this guy thinks the job belongs to him. You might not remember his name, but you'll never forget his record as Kathleen Wynne's right-hand man, making big cuts and bad choices together, slashing healthcare, and sending your hydro bill through the roof.
Stephen Del Duca.
Now he wants to be premier, to do it all again.
Stephen Del Duca.
Stephen Del Duca, back for power, not for you.
Not much I disagree with there. Stephen Del Duca. He didn't come back for you. He's like Iggy, right? He's like Iggy. He's like Michael Ignatieff. He didn't come back for you. Attack ads. Already a year to go before the election, attack ads. So that's always fun, the MPP panel. As well this morning, local criminal defense lawyer David Anber. We're going to talk about the trial that's been happening this week involving Linda O'Leary, Kevin O'Leary's wife. It's a very strange case, this one. I don't think anyone really knows how it's going to turn out right now. She was driving a speedboat. It crashed into a pontoon boat. This happened on Lake Joseph, summer getaway for the elite. And 2 people died in that crash. And even if she is found guilty of the charge, careless boating in this case, maximum fine $10,000. It seems to me, I've been following the coverage with great interest. It seems to me the whole case comes down to, were the lights on the pontoon boat? The whole case hinges on that. Were the lights on or not? The owner of the boat insists my lights were on. But I can't get past this thing. They said they were going out on the boat to go stargazing. Well, what do you do when you go stargazing, right? You want to be in the dark to stargaze. As I say, the owner of the boat says the lights were on, but another witness on the stand was kind of iffy. Couldn't remember one way or the other. And the O'Leary camp says the boat was dark. The lights were not on at all. And this is a crash happened around 11:30 at night. So it is the detail in the entire case to me. So we're going to get some legal analysis on that this morning. And you're always a big part of the show. You can talk about that one if you want. You're in the middle of our show every morning. We do the Talk Back Hour between 10 and 11 o'clock on Fridays. We do the Friday Free for All. And we love that hour around here because we don't come up with the topics. You come up with the topics, and we do our best to roll with it. We prefer topics that are in the news, but it's not a requirement. It's not written in stone or anything. Maybe it's a topic that you think should be in the news. 750-1310 is our call-in line. 750-1310, 613-750-1310. You can drop me an email, therobsnowshow@ottawa.citynews.ca. I mean, no shortage of material to work with. We can get into the second dose news, mixing and matching doses. How goes the battle to try and get an appointment for a second dose? What do you think about more NACI advice? Mix and match. Get an mRNA vaccine for your second dose. It's the preferred vaccine. Don't you love that term? People who've had one dose of AstraZeneca like me, don't you love that the mRNA is the preferred vaccine? Thanks a lot. I had AstraZeneca. What, did I get the lemon vaccine? I mean, I don't know. We've been all over this before. But I did hear on the radio on the way into work this morning that in the UK, big jump in cases in the UK. Case counts up 45% in a week. In a week. Remember, David, earlier in the week, it was 7,500. It's more than 11,000. Yesterday was the number. 45% increase in a week. Delta variant, all driven by the Delta variant. And the scary thing is the UK has had one of the best vaccination programs in the developed world. 45% of the population in the UK is fully vaccinated. In Canada, as of this morning, it's just shy of 16% can say the same thing, 15.9%, according to our World in Data. The share of Canada's population that can say it is fully vaccinated. So you can bet that's something everyone is watching. Lots of local news I wouldn't mind getting back into this morning. We talked a lot yesterday about the $1 billion electric bus ride. I have more to say about that today. I mean, we have a city of 1 million people. It's a city where 15% of residents were riding the bus with any regularity before the pandemic. That's the city's own figure. Off-peak bus usage, 15% of residents, okay? And we're going to spend $1 billion on 450 electric buses? And the garbage plan. A lot of people think we should build an incinerator. Are you one of them? We can get back into that if you want. Lowell's coming up. I know he you know Lowell, he's done a lot of shows about the incineration debate in Ottawa. An incinerator. Waste to energy, right? It's in the mix. It's up for debate. The clock is ticking on the landfill. I would just say, so help me God, if this city council thinks the people of this city would accept another landfill, I think they're misreading the public mood, and I think they're even more out to lunch than usual. They're also talking about clear plastic bags for your garbage. They do that in my hometown in Nova Scotia because they want to spy on your garbage. Okay, the garbage police. And tag a bag. They would put a limit on how many free bags you could put at the curb. Yeah, that must be lovely, eh? You pay $10,000 a year in property tax, but you can only put 2 garbage bags at the curb. You put a third one out, you got to pay $2. User fee. But it's all part of the garbage and recycling master disaster plan. So it's going to be a busy morning as we get you closer to the weekend and closer to summer on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
So the birth of absinthe was 2002, I think, 2003, and I was working at Urban Bistro, happily, where Allium is now. And then the space where Holland Cafe was came up. It's on the corner of Spencer and Holland. And I spoke to the landlord, and there's a lot of interest from a lot of other people, but he and I just, got along super well, and he put a lot of faith in me. So Carmen Turner is his name. He gave me the lease to the place and really pretty much gave me all the equipment in the place. So I was really lucky. I've been really lucky with landlords that way, actually, both my current landlord and Carmen Turner. Because if there hadn't been Carmen Turner, there wouldn't have been Absinthe. So we were there for a few years and just sort of outgrew the place. And then now we're here. It's obviously been tough, and it's been tough for everyone. I mean, that's been the big democratic sweep of, like, in restaurants and the hospitality and the arts that we were talking about earlier. It's like everybody's been impacted pretty much the same. From everybody that I talked to, we're down 80%. We're climbing out now. I think one of the saddest things is like everybody, we went down to 2 employees from 25, and we're now at 4, and we're bringing 2 new people on this week, so we'll be at 6. So it's little steps. So it's been tough. It's I've got the most expensive clubhouse ever here, because some days you come and you don't do any business, but you're here. But I'm grateful for what I do have. I think everybody's optimistic now, not necessarily just about the vaccine, but about like the vaccine spraying, being able to be outside. I think you're going to see a lot of like pop-up things happen in parking lots and on sidewalks and all and like that, rather than being actually inside somebody's commerce. I think we'd like to take it outside. I know my staff would. My staff like the outdoors now all of a sudden, all four of us. 6 soon. But we'll be doing some business in the patio in the parking lot, and we have a patio out front. And I hope other restaurants and stores will do the same. I hope that they take advantage of like the sidewalk and doing sort of, guerrilla marketing and stuff like that, and really shaking it up a bit. You can find us at Absinthe Cafe at 1208 Wellington Street West in Hintonburg, and you can find us online at absinthecafe.ca.
He's the opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Good morning, Lowell Green.
Good morning, Rob Snow. Are they really, is City Council really debating another landfill site, another dump in downtown Ottawa?
Oh, it's not off the table. That's.
I have a suggestion.
It's just crazy to me. But
I will agree to have another dump in Ottawa. I mean, Ottawa is a great place for a dump, right? So I will agree to another dump in Ottawa as long as it is located in the glebe.
Okay, right, okay.
I mean, they have one not far from me, so it seems only fair.
Only fair.
If you people want another landfill site, let's put her in the glebe.
Yep.
Or maybe Rockcliffe. There's lots of space up in Rockcliffe.
Sure, yeah.
The
old air base. They got big plans for the old air base. Maybe we could fit a landfill into the old Rockcliffe air base land.
Yeah, Lansdowne Park, there's a little bit of vacant space there. We could put a nice big dump
front
in
lawn,
Lansdowne
yes.
as well.
Yeah. How about Alta Vista?
Alta Vista's not a bad spot.
Nice
no question.
Island Park,
I'm in favor of a
Crystal
landfill,
Beach,
but as I say, particularly if we locate it within the confines of, Sandy Hill is fine.
Sandy Hill,
would be even better.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, Rob.
Yes.
I have been on this campaign to try and get this country, this province, to get modern with our garbage disposal for 28 years.
Oh, yeah.
I went back in 1993. I'm at CFRB in Toronto. I have the premier, the NDP premier,
Bob Ray. Yeah.
Bob Ray, on my show. And at this point, Toronto is shipping about 18 wheeler trucks from Toronto through to Michigan, filled with garbage every single day. 18 wheelers every single day along 401 Toronto through to Michigan to carry in garbage. So I said, this is crazy. But, most civilized places in the world, they long ago began to incinerate their garbage, and they use it to convert it to electricity. Bob Ray would have nothing to do with that. He and I got into quite a little battle on the air. In fact, he got so mad. And I can't take 100% credit for this or the blame, but as a matter of fact, he got so mad about this whole thing, he passed a law in Ontario outlawing high-efficiency incineration. Now, I'm not sure if the law still exists or not. As you know, nonetheless, they have built incinerators in the Toronto area. But so I have been fighting this battle since 1993. That's 28 years. And unfortunately, here in Ottawa, we got caught up in the Plasco fiasco. And some people still think, that Plasco had nothing to do with incineration. Incineration has been used for more than 40 years in many countries. As a matter of fact, I was absolutely surprised that the city of Vancouver burns about 1/3 of all of its garbage. And they've been doing this for more than 20 years. Yeah. So, high efficiency, if it would seem to me that if high efficiency incineration is good enough for the most left wing of all cities, that's Vancouver, it might be good enough for Ottawa. About 20 years ago, a Swedish ambassador came to Ottawa, a diplomat came to Ottawa, and he had a meeting, it was a public meeting, I was there, and a number of members of City Council, including, by the way, Eli L. Shantiri, and he told us exactly how to do it. He said, this is the size that you need for the city that you have here. He said, if you start building this now, you will pay for and you can convert the garbage to electricity. It will pay for itself in about 10 years, which means that we would have had a high-efficiency incinerator burning almost all of our garbage in this city that would have been paid for about 10 years ago if we had done what he said. Now, Eli L. Shantiri and one other city councilor, I forget who, actually went to Sweden. So he's the only one. I'm surprised that Eli hasn't followed this up, because he went to Sweden. He saw what they're doing there. It's madness. I mean, to place a dump in the center of a city, which is what the Carp Mountain is. The Carp Mountain essentially is in the center of the capital city of Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, even back in medieval days, they dumped their garbage on the ground.
I just want to be clear so everybody knows. The Carp Road landfill is not household waste. The household waste goes to Trail Road, so...
Well, I'm not sure, but it may be the case today. It's not that long ago when there were trucks lined up. They came in here from Kingston for God's sake to dump it at the Carp Mountain. So, but I mean, the idea, as I say, even in medieval days, at least they had the common sense not to dump the garbage in the center of their cities. They at least dumped it over the damn wall, but we don't even do that here. Now, on this business of $1 billion for electric buses.
Yeah.
You know, Rob, I wish that somebody sometime would do a real assessment of exactly how does electrically powered vehicles help the environment. Take everything into account. Not only the batteries and the mining that's required, how much CO2 does that produce, but how do we get the electricity? How do we produce that? I mean, there are tons of cement into every one of the windmills. As you know, cement factories are tremendous producers of CO2. I could go on and on, but you have to wonder. Don't forget, if we're going to pay 50% more for a bus than an ordinary bus, that's money that's not available for health care, for long-term care, et cetera, et cetera. Would we not be better off, for God's sake, to stick with modern, high-efficiency diesel buses or whatever the hell it is, and the money that we save, take the bulk of it, as I say, to improve long-term care, health care, et cetera, and then take maybe 10% of it and plant trees. Would that not be better?
Oh, we got a big plan to plant trees, don't you know? We're going to spend, $3 billion to plant trees. So.
Well, yeah, I know, but we're also going to spend $1 billion on 450 buses.
I know.
Many millions of dollars, which is extra just because they're electric. But has anybody ever really done a study? How much better for the environment are electrically powered vehicles when you take everything into account? The batteries that are required, the power that's required in order to create the electricity. Don't forget, if we're going to have electric vehicles widely used in Canada, we have to essentially recreate the entire electrical grid. How much CO2 is that going to produce? I mean, all of this stuff requires energy. Nobody has ever actually done a study. It just seems to be assumed, electrical vehicles are better. Maybe they are, but you know what? You have to weigh that against the extra dollars. Would we not be better off, seriously, to plant trees or take some other action to mitigate CO2 and use regular buses?
I'm not even sure what kind of mitigation plan this really is. Now, the city councilors love to talk a great game. What a great advancement this is for reductions of greenhouse gases.
Yeah, well, where's the proof that it is?
Well, I read the city's own reports. Okay, right. You may as well go right to the source.
Yeah.
So, the city says that running the city and all the vehicles that it takes to run the city, the buses and the police cars and the fire trucks and the ambulance. That's 4% of all the greenhouse gases that are produced in Ottawa.
Right.
And of that 4%, half of that 4% comes from the OC Transpo fleet. So that brings you down to 2%. We're going to spend $1 billion to electrify half the fleet. So that gives you 1% of the total greenhouse gas emissions in Ottawa, right? I mean, I'm just, these are the city's own numbers. So is this the going rate now? It costs $1 billion in the city of Ottawa to reduce greenhouse gases by 1%?
Yeah, and there's another
$1 billion, Lowell?
Yeah, I know, but there's another figure to tack on, and that is that Canada itself produces only 1.6 of the global CO2. So you're telling me that the city of Ottawa, the OC Transpo produces 2% of all the CO2 we produce, but Canada itself is only 1.6%. So I mean, exactly what are we doing by spending all this extra money?
Exactly.
Would we not be better to take that extra money and fix a damn problem on the reserves in this country, give them some fresh water, and fix the problem in our long-term care?
Yeah.
Where do we get the idea that it's better to buy electric buses than fix the long-term care?
You remember a few weeks ago, everybody was up in arms, and you were one of them.
Yeah.
$3 million for Mark Motors, tax break, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, imagine the good you could do in the community with $3 million. Well, imagine the good you could do in the community with $1 billion.
You got it, sweetheart. You got it. But you see, and there's another factor here. Most of the impetus for this, the green energy, et cetera, is coming from members of the Green Party. I mean, these are the far left radicals, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you, with the situation that I see in the Green Party now indicates to me that a good number of those people in the Green Party that are driving the environmental program in this country are very nasty people. And I'm calling a spade here.
Yep.
I mean, many of these people, they're mad at their leader because she doesn't think that Israel is any more responsible for what happens in the Mideast.
Yeah, but she's Jewish. She's Jewish.
She's Jewish.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that there's tremendous pressure on her from members of the Green Party to get rid of her because she supports Israel.
Yeah.
Which indicates to me that there's a hell of a lot of people in the Green Party that are pretty damn nasty people.
Yeah.
And these are the people, by and large, not exclusively, but by and large, that are driving the environmental policy. Where is all of this information coming from? Well, for the most part, it's from the far left. These are the people stopping the pipelines. These are the people building the windmills and the solar panels, et cetera, et cetera. And what we are seeing here is some of these people, a good many of them, are not very nice people. Sorry, but that's what I see.
Okay, I have one final question for you, and it's not really on our list.
Fire.
There's really no difference right now when it comes to Quebec between Aaron O'Toole and Justin Trudeau.
Right.
They've both taken this hands-off approach. Quebec can do whatever it wants.
Yep,
it can have
mistake.
Bill 21. It can have Bill 96. I think it's a big mistake.
Yeah, I do, too.
Yeah, you do.
I do, too. I understand why they're doing it. I've had talks with the Conservative Party on this, and I expressed to them my feelings on it. But they point to the figures and say, listen, there's strong support for this in the province of Quebec, and if we go against it, we ain't going to win the election.
Yeah,
so
they're not going to win any seats in Quebec anyway. So,
well,
and Harper didn't need Quebec to win a majority government, I would point out.
I realize that. But by the way, talking about this, I know this is not local, but I am beginning to detect a slight lessening of the glow around Wonder Boy, Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
Some of the columnists, I think you've noticed this, some of the columnists who've been fawning over this guy are doing just a little bit less fawning right now.
Did you hear how he lashed out at the print media at the G7?
Yeah,
what we decide at this meeting will last longer, or so much longer than whatever you write will be wrapped with fish. Basically called them fake news, you know.
Maybe he just needs a haircut.
I guess so. Are you double dosed yet?
Oh yes, double dosed. Absolutely.
Oh, good for you.
And
good
very
for you.
Grateful for it.
Hey.
And I, by the way, it's not AstraZeneca either. We got Pfizer. Both Debbie and I got Pfizer in this household. And I have to say, but locally, our mayor sort of got caught hoisting his own petard. Sent a very huffy letter to Doug Ford, saying that we were being shortchanged in Ottawa on vaccines. And then Ford responded, "Hey, wait a minute! You got more than 25,000 doses sitting in freezers in your city. Not only that, we've done the research. Since the 1st of May, you have received more than 37,000 more doses than the per capita justifies." So I'd like to know when the mayor's going to apologize for the premier on that. Can you imagine criticizing Doug, saying you're shortchanged, and you got more than 25,000 doses sitting in freezers not used here in the city? Beautiful.
Gotta go. Thank you, Lowell.
Good morning.
Be well. Bye-bye. The legendary Lowell Green, Bourque, is back after the news on City News.
one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, June 18th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls, 19 degrees, and here's what's making news this hour. Some Ottawa parents gathered at City Hall this morning for a rally. They are looking for assurances from the province that there will definitely be in-class learning in schools starting in September. NDP MPP Joel Harden says the government must add more cash and more resources to make sure children are in class. Harden says children crave the social aspects of learning. We are still waiting for the official reaction from Ontario after the federal guidance on vaccine regimen in our country changed. It meant anyone who received their first vaccine of AstraZeneca should get a second shot from either Moderna or Pfizer. However, the task force does say for anyone who has received both shots of AstraZeneca already, you are protected against severe illness or hospitalization from COVID. Those who are vaccinated are likely starting to think about travel. If that's to the United States, we could find out today about the border reopening plan. The current closure is scheduled to expire on Monday. The Prime Minister expected to address that issue and others at a briefing this morning from Rideau Cottage. He is still in quarantine after his European trip this week. City News Time, 9:33. I'm Andrew Boyle. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Bourque is back. Pierre Bourque. Bourque Newswatch. Morning.
Rob, you're rocking it over there.
Yeah. Do you know what that song is? I
was trying to make it. I've heard, of course, but I couldn't.
All right. No, everybody remembers the opening credits, the opening theme to WKRP in Cincinnati. That was the song they used to play when they played the closing credits for WKRP in Cincinnati. And just remembering Frank Bonner. Played Herb Tarlick on WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yeah, Herb Tarlick and, of course, Johnny Fever, Dr. Johnny Fever. The doctor.
Venus Flytrap.
Venus Flytrap, a classic show for anybody in your
Jennifer and Bailey and Les Nessman and Carlson and all of them. Anyway, Frank Bonner played, and he wasn't perfectly cast, played Herb Tarlick. 79 years old, passed away yesterday. So
anyway, he had the suits to be a salesman.
Oh, sure. They like those epic suits. It was such, there was, I was just thinking about, I used to watch that show all the time, and it was just such great, you talk situation comedy, that was it right there. It was, it wasn't serious. It wasn't really political or anything. It was just fun, fun and funny. So, about a radio station. So, anyway, Pierre, I have to ask you, I know it's not on our list, but it just popped into my head, and I know you'll roll with it. It comes out, it's going to take another 10 years to finish the renovation on Center Block for Parliament Hill. Another 10 years. And about $5 billion. So one of the news stories says today, that's in addition to everything that's already being spent to do all of this rehabilitation to the parliamentary precinct. It says Public Services and Procurement Canada says it has cost $3 billion just to prepare for the closure of Center Block, restoring and renovating West Block and the old train station and other buildings in the parliamentary precinct that house everyone located from Center Block. In addition, contracts worth about $770 million have already been awarded in work on Center Block. And now it's going to take another $5 billion and another 10 years. I used to say about Montreal, beautiful city, I can't wait to see when it's finished. I guess we could say the same thing about Confederation Boulevard. It's crazy, the money. It'll be nice when it's done, I guess, and it should for that price tag. But it is rather enormous, isn't it?
You know, Parliament Hill, those beautiful buildings, perhaps the most historic buildings in the country, The original buildings were built in the 1800s. Not sure what the budget was or how long it took to build. Then, of course, there was the Great Fire. They had to rebuild. First, they had to clear it, then they had to rebuild it, and, of course, we've got what we've got. Nowhere in anyone's wildest imagination would you have thought it would take 20 years to rebuild. It never took 20 years to rebuild back then. And that's with the rudimentary tools that they had at their disposal, both in terms of design of architecture, in terms of availability of materials, in terms of construction tools. And yet here we are with the most modern, and this thing's taking the better part of a full generation, Rob. It's not just another 10 years. They've been at it 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
They've been at it 10 years.
Yeah.
When it was first floated, it was meant to be maybe $1 billion in total cost. Well, you get some of these big players, these big engineering companies, some with more interesting pedigrees than others, and you might put in your favorite name that you want, and these things drag on, and suddenly the budget, well, there is no budget.
No. It's like unlimited. It's the never-ending public works project.
Yeah, it's just a fantastic thing that those who are on that gravy train, they'll just let it ride. Let it ride, man. Let it ride.
Let it ride. Let it ride. Have you been following the coverage about the O'Leary boat crash trial?
Well, you're talking about letting it ride. I'm a guy who grew up on boats in the St. Lawrence River, and riding boats is absolutely fantastic as a recreational activity. Water skiing, using it for scuba diving, swimming, the rest, perfect. But at nighttime, boy, that takes on a life of its own. A friend of mine, his parents got killed when they got run over by a freighter, no less.
Oh my goodness!
In the Thousand Islands, and so you take all of that. When and Rob, I know you're a boater. When you are
I
on
wouldn't
the water,
call myself a boater. I've got a little 14-foot, 30-year-old aluminum dinghy, I guess you could call it. But
when you are on the waters, at night on a moonlight,
I don't take it out at night. No.
When you're on the waters, especially a navigable waterway with other boats on a moonless night, all of those lights that you'll see out there, there's no sense of depth. You're not quite sure where they are, and how close and what have you. When it's a full moon night, by gosh, it's beautiful. It's almost daylight out there, almost. I don't know what it was the night of this unfortunate accident. I think I read an account that all parties agree that it wasn't Kevin O'Leary at the wheel.
No, it was his wife. Yeah.
And yet the eyewitnesses on the boat, the ones who survived that accident, the boat that got struck, they're saying that the O'Leary boat was darting about on the waters. Maybe they were trying to figure out their horizons properly to see where they were going, and so they were correcting as they went along. And then, of course, the boat strikes. But
the other issue is, and it seems to in the coverage this week, it all hinges on the other boat's a pontoon boat, and it's some people were over for a dinner party, and then they're out on the pontoon boat and they want to go stargazing. The owner of the pontoon boat insists my lights were on. I would not leave without the lights on, but he also says he wants to go stargazing, which leads me to think, well, if I was stargazing, I want to turn the lights off when I'm stargazing, right? The O'Leary team says that there were no, this is their whole defense is they couldn't see the other boat.
So, look, I've done that myself. I've been out on a boat, stargazing, you turn the lights off to get the best view. It would seem to me the logical thing. That's certainly what I did. Another boat comes along, you turn the lights on for a moment. Let them know that you're there. Certainly did that. That seemed to be our way of doing things, and I would imagine that an experienced pilot of that boat would likely have done the same thing. Right? So did they not do that? I also read, Rob, a report that one of the survivors said that while he didn't see the navigation lights, whether or not they were on, there were other lights on that boat, maybe some small party lights of some kind. He said those ones were on. So, is it going to be a he said, she said? I don't know.
Yeah. It's such a fascinating insight because it's, they call it cottage country, but then they have pictures of where this happened. Lake Joseph, it's called. They're not cottages. Like, don't stop calling them cottages. I mean, they're summer mansions is what they are. It's crazy. I mean, really.
Spectacular location, right?
Oh,
I mean, it's the Muskokas are beautiful in their own right, in the same way that we love the Rideau Lakes and the Gatineau Mountains. But you've got all the money from Toronto and elsewhere that pours in there, Hollywood people and so forth.
Yeah.
You got that rustic feel, and people have poured millions of dollars into cottage mansions.
Yeah, I mean, they're mansions. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Yep. $1 billion for electric buses. What is your
Let
that's your theme for today? Let it ride.
Let it ride.
What is your But look, Pierre. I mean, let's think about how this has come together in a matter of like a week and a half or something. Like $1 billion. It's going to be the fastest $1 billion spent in Ottawa's history, I think, $1 billion.
Look, and I love Jim Watson, so if he's listening to us, he knows that. I've known him since before he himself was elected, when I was elected. So, look, I like Jim. But if you've spent your whole time spending public money, sometimes you have maybe a tenuous grasp on what a dollar's worth. I don't know. But if you've been in power a long time, you probably know that expediency is important. You got to get these things done quick, otherwise it's going to fall into debate. And if you really have your heart set, your mind set on getting something done, better get it done sooner, faster than later, and perhaps never. And that's what you're seeing here. Look, all I know is that they've been spending, they've been investing into public transit by the billions. Not just $1 billion, but how many more billions on the LRT, and how much more on legal fees, and how much more on what's going to happen in the courts. And this thing's not yet done.
Are you down with another landfill? Let it ride? Another landfill for the city? Let it ride?
The Glebe, beautiful spot for a landfill.
Yeah.
Why not? Look, in all seriousness, the city's growing as much as we try. There's no shortage of packaging and garbage and refuse that needs to be taken care of, whether it goes up in smoke or gets buried in a landfill. And Mount Lowell is out my way. I certainly don't want to see that grow much further.
Yeah.
So let's share the wealth. Let's find another location in the city, possibly Orleans or down in the gorgeous area of Barrhaven.
It just seems to me like we just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I look up it's Trail Road is the residential landfill. Okay. So it opened in 1980. The Trail Road landfill opened in 1980. And it was co-managed by two levels of government that don't even exist anymore, Pierre. The regional municipality of Ottawa Carleton, and the city of Nepean. The dump has lasted longer than both of those municipal governments. So it opens in 1980. It's supposed to close in the year 2000. 20 years. Okay, you can have the dump, but we'll run it for 20 years. The 20 years comes and goes. The province says, okay, you can run it for another 8 years. You have to close it by 2008. 13 years ago. And now they're saying, it's good until the year 2036 to 2038, even though they used to say 2042. So they've already declared the thing full twice.
Let it ride.
Let it ride. Let it ride.
Look if you're worried and you've got NIMBY on the brain, you let it ride. But Rob, here's the thing about Trail Road.
Yeah.
I used to live in Manotick.
Right.
Up and down the 416 ad nauseum.
Yeah.
More recently, many trips out of the city to Toronto and back, and you leave in the daytime, you come back in the evening. What is it about that particular dump that during the day, rarely do you smell methane, but as soon as the lights go out, it gets dark, suddenly it stinks to high heaven in that area.
I don't know.
I find that just a magical and strange coincidence.
Isn't that something? Okay. Look, big plans for the weekend. There's lots of sports to take in. There's hockey, there's golf, there's soccer. Does that interest you at all? Or
there's Father's Day.
Yes. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. Yes.
I'll take that. I'll absorb that. I'll take that, and I'm enjoying family time this weekend. That's what we're up to.
Good stuff. Thank you, Pierre. It's always great to have you on our show.
Pleasure, Rob.
Yeah.
Safe boating.
Pierre Bourque from Bourque Newswatch. Ron Corbett of Ottawa Press and Publishing. Best bets for summer reads with summer just a few days away. That's coming up next here on The Rob Snow Show on City News.
I always knew I was going to own my own business, and I've always wanted to have a store. And I sort of figured when the right concept came together at the right time, I would move forward with that plan. And so through doing some environmental initiatives in the restaurant group that I was with prior to opening this store, it just triggered my path towards being more environmentally conscientious and wanting to make more of a difference, and hopefully encouraging, inspiring other people to want to do the same, at which point the idea for All Eco was born. I have some really fun products. I have a really wide spectrum of products. So the things we look for in terms of qualifying products are sustainably made, upcycled, recycled, zero waste, all natural, no harmful chemicals to like the environment or to our bodies. We have like fun stuff, so like really clean burning candles, lots of really natural body care and skin care. I put a real emphasis on Canadian products. I really try to support up and comers, and I always source Canada first. The refill bar is really important to me. It's really huge. I think that's been exciting as well, because I thought it was going to be a real process in convincing people that this is a better way to go. And actually it was just like right away there was a built-in affinity towards doing refill, which has been great. We closed, I think, probably we were closed down by before the second week of March. Just didn't feel we could comfortably or confidently stay open, even though I do sell essential products, like in terms of the cleaning. But we just didn't feel we could make a safe space for ourselves or our customers at that time, and especially with the information we had at the time. So we did close our doors, at which point I did not have a website, because that was I hadn't even scheduled myself to have a website at that point. So that was sort of like full speed moving towards that and trying to drive the business, at the same time still get myself on the map because I was so new. So during that time, as we were building the website, we were still doing a lot of video shopping and private shopping, online shopping, like online phone, text. Any way I could do business, I was doing it. And there was really a nice show of support for my business during that time, which was really, really encouraging. And now, we are fully set up online too.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's great to have back on the Rob Snow Show on City News. From Ottawa Press and Publishing, Ron Corbett. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, it's great to hear from you. How's business?
Jump right into it, hey, Rob. That's what I always love to do. How's business? Are we open yet? Retail business is about what you may expect right now, Rob. It's slow. It's gone from non-existent to slow, so I guess that's progress.
Okay, slow is the new up.
Slow is the new up. I'm a publisher, just so people know. I'm a publisher. I don't have a retail store, but anyone that has a retail store in Ontario right now, they have my sympathies. It's been a tough year.
Yep, but you do have the online store, right?
Yes. Well,
Ottawa Press and Publishing, and you can, all the Ottawa Press and Publishing authors and their wares are all there, and boy, there's some great looking stuff there for sale.
Well, thank you. No, we have some popular books out this year. Let's talk about maybe talk about the bookstores, because they really do deserve a shout out right now. We lost a bookstore too, Rob. I can't recall the last time we lost a bookstore, but Prospero's closed, and the local would know the Prospero chain. Well, we lost the last one about a month ago.
Okay.
Which shows you with the pandemic. The online store is doing great, Rob, and thank God for that, because that is our store right now. There's no brick and mortar out there, and we have some popular titles. Laura Byrne has a book out. Let's talk about some good things. Laura Byrne Paquette has got a very popular book.
Yeah,
right
I want to ask you about this. Ottawa. I showed this to David this morning. David's like, I have to get that book. Ottawa Road Trips, your 100-kilometer getaway guide.
Yes. Now, are we a publishing genius or not? We released a 100-kilometer getaway guide in the middle of a provincial lockdown. Stay at home, okay?
But I love it. So here's the premise here. Laid out in 10-kilometer grids from the base of the Peace Tower. That is a great way to look at it. Right there.
And Laura has done a wonderful job. Laura has a blog, Ottawa Road Trip. She's done it for years. I don't know if you crossed paths with Laura in your career.
No, but I must.
She worked at Ottawa Business Journal the same time I worked there. So Laura's she's done a wonderful job. I've read books like this before, and this really is the definitive day tripping guide. She's been to all these places. She's written about them for years, and the book is doing extremely, extremely well. Now, Laura can't do any signings. We can't go out. I have no idea how it's doing at a bookstore. And a lot of the bookstores are still closed, right? People should know that. A shopping center, anything in a shopping center. So most of the Kohl's are still closed. But yes, it's on. We're selling that book through the website, and it's doing extremely well. It's a wonderful book. We also have a book out. I don't know if you've seen this one, Rob, by Dan Lalande called Real Ottawa.
Real Ottawa, R-E-E-L.
Exactly. And Dan has been in movies. He was with Raccoons. He was one of the writers on the Raccoons. He can't do this on television. The Ottawa lad, just a great guy. And it's a memoir of growing up in Ottawa, watching movies. Or, as Dan did, sneaking into movies. He's very upfront about this. Anybody listening, if you ever snuck into the Rialto, Real Ottawa is a book you want to read. And that one's doing extremely well.
Real Ottawa, a memoir, with the movie theaters we loved, which is interesting because I've only been in Ottawa 30 years, but, there are lots of movie theaters when I first moved to Ottawa that aren't around anymore, even, I think about it.
For some bizarre reason, and people have speculated on this, there's always agreed, but Ottawa, in the heyday, 60s, 70s, had a lot of movie houses. And even before that, the Imperial, which is Barrymore's now, and the Capitol, the old auditorium, some of these theaters, some of the best in the country, like per capita, Ottawa just had a bounty of movie theaters for some reason.
What was the one run on Elgin Street up near, I think it's a Harvey's now?
That was the Elgin Theater.
That was the Elgin Theater.
And there were two of them. If anybody, there was the Elgin 1 and the Elgin 2.
Oh, okay.
They were both at the corner there. It might have been said before the Elgin, but I certainly remember it as the Elgin. And there's some wonderful photos. If you've seen the book here, you should see the photo we have of the lineup to see Star Wars. The Empire Strikes Back at the old Nelson Theater. And the lineup is just hysterical. You can look, it's like a Sgt. Pepper's cover. You can look at that lineup for a long time, and it's very indicative of the era. Let's put it that way, with Empire Strikes Back. So we're still publishing. We're still having fun. I don't want to sell it down. We're still publishing. Authors are looking forward to meeting their readers again. We hope this is going to start opening up in the fall.
So look, I wanted to ask you about that because the last time we had you on, it was, Christmas craft shows and these kinds of things were always such an important time for local authors to get out, meet their readers, sign books, sell books, and all of those opportunities were gone. Gosh, is there any signs of life, like any kinds of events, like a signature show or anything like that?
Well, you should ask that. There is a signature show. I was just doing something on that. I was just speaking to somebody at Signatures earlier this morning. I feel sorry for Signatures. What they're down to at the moment, there is a Christmas show. 5 days. I think you better check the dates. Go on their site. It's December 10th, if you better check the dates. But it's only 5 days. It was supposed to be 10. They scaled it down to 5, and they've canceled everything leading up to it. There was going to be shows at Lansdowne this summer. Those are canceled. There is going to be a fall show. That's canceled. So, people have just given up speculating on when the heck. It's funny you should mention last time I was on your show, Rob. I remember it quite well because it was in December, and we were speculating, is there going to be much of a Christmas? And I said, well, it doesn't look like it. Then, all the stores closed on December 26th. Lockdown number 2. And they've basically been locked out. So, is there going to be... It looks like we're going to have... here's good news. I booked my second dose this morning.
Oh,
People
good for you.
Go online. That's one thing that's working. Go online. It looks like they released some doses. Everybody's got to get a second shot. and so we can start opening things up again.
Yeah. How are the Andrew King books doing, Ron?
Wonderfully. And that's how I hope we open up, because last year, there were no signings. Phil Jenkins had some wonderful books out last year as well. As I walked about, we did very well with that book. Phil would like to meet some readers. Andrew would like to go back out there and meet some people.
Yeah.
Both our spring books are doing extremely, extremely well. We have mystery books. In the midst of all this, we launched a new mystery imprint. We are stupid, because we launched new books. Don Butler, a shout out to Don Butler.
Oh, really?
Former managing editor at the Ottawa Citizen.
Sure.
He has his first novel, his debut novel, A Life of Bliss. Wonderful book. It's getting great reviews. You buy that online. That's the only place you can buy it right now is online. Life of Bliss. So we just released that. We did something a little bit different. We're a regional publisher, and we take that to heart. But you make exceptions every once in a while, Rob. And we just published 2 books by a nun who writes mystery novels, and she lives in Indianapolis.
Wow.
Sister Diane Carolla. She is the full nun. By the way, this is not a lay nun. We're not trying to trick you here. And she's with an order in Indianapolis. Does some wonderful work in Indianapolis. And in her spare time, she writes mystery novels. And we've just published her first 2 mystery novels. So it's still fun.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Look, all the titles are available that you've just heard. OttawaPressandPublishing.com. They are proudly Canadian, proudly regional, it says. So, look, to better times, Ron. To better times, right?
There are better times coming. We are through this. But again, I can't emphasize enough, anybody. Second shot is so important. Retail needs to reopen. And that's not going to happen until people get the second shot. So my little public service announcement. It's great talking to you again, Rob.
Thanks, Ron Corbett. Ron Corbett, Ottawa Press and Publishing. 9:58 Talkback Hour, Friday, free-for-all at 750-1310. Pick a topic, we'll roll with it. This is City News.
is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smith Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 1011 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, June 18th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now with some scattered showers in Ottawa and Smith Falls, 19 degrees. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Ottawa parents are banding together, pressuring the province to ensure students will be in school in person in the fall and safely. Children have been taking part in pandemic schooling for over a year, and parents have had enough of the flip-flop between online and in-class learning. A group is now pushing for in-class learning on a permanent basis starting in September. They're rallying at City Hall and getting support from NDP MPP Joel Harden.
The particular thing that concerns me is how the province is using this moment to throw us into a whole new regime of online learning that the vast amount of kids and parents don't want.
The parents for reopening Ontario schools say the province needs to have measures in place for both elementary and high school students to attend in person in September. So what happens now with vaccines? Both the province and anyone who got AstraZeneca as their first shot and yet to get their second have a decision to make. It's all because the independent body advising Health Canada on immunizations has once again done a pirouette. Here's City News reporter Jamie Pulfer.
What happens now in Ontario after the National Advisory Committee on Immunization flipped the script again on this vaccine? The new guidance is that those who got AZ as their first dose now get Pfizer or Moderna as their second. No official response yet from the Ford government about this latest pivot. Here's BC's top doctor Bonnie Henry.
An mRNA after a dose of AstraZeneca may give some boost to the immune system, but we don't know whether that translates into whether you're better protected or not.
This as we wait on a much larger study on mixing vaccines out of the UK that's expected to offer some insight into the effectiveness. There's about 600,000 doses left in the country. You can still choose the vaccine as your second dose. Canada's top doctor says those who have already received 2 shots of AZ made the right choice and have good protection. I'm Jamie Pulfer.
Now in neighboring Quebec, the government is hoping incentives like a free hot dog or prizes will encourage young adults to get their vaccine. Demand for first doses of COVID-19 lagging among the 18 to 39-year age group, and some younger adult age groups are still slightly below the 75% target that province has also set. City News time at 10:03, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
An unsettled stretch of weather moves in. We've got some wet weather today, mainly for the afternoon. A gusty southwest wind. High 24 will feel like 28. Scattered showers and thunderstorms tonight and at times for Saturday as well. Sunday, Father's Day, should feature lots of sunshine. For today, the high 24.
And right now with some scattered rain, it's 19 degrees in Ottawa and in Smiths Falls. A public inquiry says numerous security shortcomings helped a suicide bomber carry out the attack at Manchester Arena 4 years ago in England. Reporter Oscar Wells Gabriel says a new report cites failures by the arena operator, also the security company, as well as local police. 22 people did die in that attack May 22nd, 2017. I'm Andrew Boyle. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
It's the Friday free-for-all. That's our favorite hour of the week around here. We don't come up with the topics. You come up with the topics. We do our best to roll with it. 750-1310, 750-1310, 750-1310, or email the Rob Snow Show at ottawa.citynews.ca. The $1 billion electric bus ride, that was a big local story this week, goes to full city council next week, and because it's green, that makes it righteous and virtuous, and well, no local politician wants to be in the crosshairs of groups like Ecology Ottawa, and they're all going to spin it like it's free money, because a lot of it is federal money, so that's like free money. Right? You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if this vote was unanimous, if the $1 billion vote on the electric buses was unanimous. And we'll be on our way to... I don't know. They don't know either. The thing is, they don't know either. Maybe the technology works, maybe it doesn't. But to me, I would encourage everyone to read Randall Denley's column this week on the official plan, urban planning, this whole idea of 15-minute neighborhoods, this idea in the urban planners' heads at the city of Ottawa that we're going to live in this walkable, sustainable utopia. Because it's obvious city council's bought into this hook, line, and sinker And it just shows a city government that increasingly is just detached from the reality of living in Ottawa. But that's my opening remark. We'll see how many remarks I get to make because I like to turn this hour over to you. Let's go to Elmer. Bob is called in from Elmer. Bob, good morning.
Rob, really good to talk to you this morning. I'm so glad your show is on.
Well, thank you, sir.
Something is really driving me crazy.
Okay.
I'm not sleeping at night. I'm stressed out. And I think something needs to be done. I know you're the guy to look into these things and get it moving. I don't know if you've noticed lately, but animals are coming out from everywhere. I'm driving along. I do a lot of driving. The other day, a deer jumped out and hit my car.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yesterday, a duck flew into my windshield. And I'm forever stopping my car, swerving my car. I even stopped the other day to get a turtle off the road. Where are these guys going? You heard the joke about why did the chicken cross the road? Where are all these animals going? They're dying. They're getting maimed. I think somebody needs to look into it.
Okay. Better wildlife control, perhaps.
You know, you need a new show, Rob. Get a new segment.
Okay.
What's driving you crazy? People are going crazy with things out there.
What's driving you crazy?
What's driving you crazy?
Well, that isn't that kind of the entirety of the Rob Snow Show. What's driving you crazy?
I don't think so. I tell you, I used to listen to Lowell Green for you were around for 30 years. He was around for like 50 years.
50 years, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought that this guy used to rant and rave, and he's still ranting. Are you sure that's really Lowell Green?
It sure is. It sure is. And you know what? He's still at the top of his game.
It might be like Elvis. He's not really Lowell Green. It should be someone else. Anyway, thanks
it's just some. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Just some guy we snatched from the Antrim truck stop. Okay. We just found him there. Lois in Nepean. Morning, Lois.
Morning.
Morning, Lois.
Good morning, Rob.
Hi there.
I'm upset over all the anger against Sir John A. Macdonald.
You are, okay.
Under Pierre Trudeau as Prime Minister for 10 years, there were 7 new residential schools built.
Sure.
The last one in 1976.
Yeah.
And should we tear down his statues? Rename it the airport and the mountain?
Well, nobody is squeaky clean when it comes to the treatment of First Nations in this country. But there's certainly a special condemnation reserved for Sir John A. Macdonald. You're right.
I don't know why. The other prime minister.
Well, he was the first. He was the architect.
Is that good enough?
But okay, but what about Wilfrid Laurier?
Elliott Trudeau.
What about William Lyon Mackenzie King? What about Louis Saint Laurent? They all have a role to play in the treatment of First Nations. All of them. All of them. Nobody is lily white. No prime minister is lily white on the treatment of the Indigenous. Not even the current prime minister is. He has his lawyers fighting in court right now against First Nations.
There are many books written, and my husband has a book written by the Anglican bishop.
Right.
In 1910, 20% of the students were in residential schools, 1/3 in day schools, and only about half received any kind of education. Who decided about Kamloops being a genocide?
It's not Kamloops in and of itself that amounts to a genocide. It's the cultural genocide of the Indigenous cultures in Canada.
But right away...
Right. That Canada has apologized for. The Canadian government has apologized for twice now.
Yeah.
Right?
But
that doesn't mean we have achieved reconciliation.
But during this year and a half pandemic, how many thousand people died? And back 100 years, there were plagues.
Yeah,
My husband knows a family of 7 children, and 5 died.
Well, certainly, you can go and look at graveyards, and you will see from generations past, the deaths of many children, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no mistake.
No mistake.
But their deaths are chronicled, right? They have their own resting place. Think about Kamloops, okay? It's a mass grave. It's a mass grave, Lois. They don't even know who's in there. There are no records.
There should be some records.
You would think, and maybe, and this is it, Lois, and I'm going to have to end our call there. Isn't that it? It's a mass grave in Canada. In Canada. It's a mass grave with 215 bodies of little children. They don't even know who they are. They don't even know who they are. Maybe the Catholic Church knows who they are, but if the Catholic Church knows, it's not fessing up about it. The Pope won't even apologize for it. Barry in Ottawa. Barry.
Good morning.
Are you going to behave yourself? You got 2 strikes against you there, Barry.
Yes, well...
It's 3 and that's it, buddy. You're out, okay?
Yeah. Well, no more, Rob. I'm sorry I used a word the other day.
I got to be careful, Barry. You get so worked up that your mouth goes faster than your brain. Now, I've been there, Barry. It can be difficult. So,
yeah,
all right.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay. You want to talk about Trudeau?
I'll try not to let my anger get be worked up.
Right. So Barry gets all worked up. He uses bad words on the radio, and now he wants to talk about Trudeau. Okay. All right. I feel like I'm in for it again. Do we have it? We're in delay, right? Okay. All right. Here we go. Give it your best shot, Barry.
Well, I just wanted to say, Rob, with the vaccines and other things that he's done, and he just seems to be so lame as far as answering questions, and he just he talks a lot but says nothing. And this is what defense they seem to have for when they're asked a serious question. And if we can't get leaders and politicians in a situation where they can answer a question seriously and be truthful, then why are they there?
Okay. Yeah, I think, I don't know about the Parliamentary Press Gallery. I sense they're getting increasingly frustrated with the Prime Minister's lack of direct answers to very direct questions. And more than that, demands are being made on members of the press gallery, some of the top journalists in the country, and the Liberal politicians in power right now really want to control the narrative. They want questions in advance. They want interviews to basically be choreographed and scripted to the government's behalf. It's really something to behold.
I was glad to see the Speaker finally spoke out and said something which was probably contrary to what the Prime Minister would say or do. And it'll be interesting to see whether he actually is able to keep his job because he spoke out.
Well, I think Monday, you got to watch what happens in the House of Commons on Monday when they admonish. They're actually, if you can imagine thank you for your call, Barry, what they're going to do to this public servant on Monday, the head of the Public Health Agency of Canada, Ian Stewart. The government has been found in contempt. They had a vote. The Liberals are in contempt of Parliament. Not only that, but they're going to officially admonish the head of the Public Health Agency of Canada because of documents that are being kept secret about these scientists that were working at the lab in Winnipeg, and they were fired, and the government won't say they were fired, only that we can't tell you because of national security concerns. So they've been found in contempt. They're going to drag this guy from the Public Health Agency of Canada into the House of Commons, and I guess he has to stand there and publicly in the House of Commons be admonished by the Speaker of the House. Like, it's not a flogging, but it's like a verbal flogging, basically. And they haven't done this in more than 100 years to somebody in the House of Commons. It's pretty extraordinary. 10:16, this is the Talkback Hour. Friday free-for-all on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
The food cupboard started about 25 years ago Again, it was a very small operation in the basement of a church. And we have been expanding to the point where we needed to have a new facility. So in discussion with the city of Ottawa, and Jan Harder, the local representative here, we came to this location, which is about 2,000 square feet, located in the Walter Baker Center. We've been here for about 2 years, and it is much better. It gives us a much broader opportunity to serve our clients better. It's a fairly affluent community in Barrhaven, so you wouldn't think that people would really need to have a food bank or a food cupboard. But people sometimes have a temporary loss of their job, maybe new immigrants or refugees to the community. Maybe there's been an injury in the family or something like a pandemic that causes people to run short of food during their monthly requirements. So we offer any clients who come and live in our catchment area the opportunity to pick up an order of food every 3 or 4 weeks. The need varies from time to time. We have expanded our offering to include quite a few perishables, eggs, milk, cheese, yogurt, vegetables, fruit. But people I think know that we need cans of beans and stuff as well too. One thing that we're consistently short of sometimes is personal hygiene products. You go to the grocery store, you buy your toothpaste and you buy your deodorant and shampoo there. People don't automatically think that to donate those kinds of things to a food cupboard. So we end up buying quite a few of those things from time to time. The pandemic has affected us like it has everybody. Initially, we had to stop the grocery store food donations so that we didn't have any risk of contamination and to have a significant number of volunteer work to be done in our facility. We have a storefront, so it's like a mini grocery store where you take a cart and you go around and pick out the things that you want. That doesn't work during the pandemic to maintain social distancing and so on. So what we have now is our clients can come in one at a time, they make an appointment, they stand behind a line, and they direct our volunteer to, I'd like Kellogg's cornflakes rather than Harvest Crunch, to pick the food that they would like off the shelves according to the allocation, depending on the size of their family. And then they take it out, load it into their vehicle or whatever, bring back the cart, we disinfect everything, and prepare for the next client. We are very blessed here in Barrhaven. We're a totally volunteer organization. So if you give a dollar to us, it goes to purchasing food or to provide some service to our clients.
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
It's the Friday free-for-all talkback hour. So it's wide open on topics, okay? 750-1310. We've already talked about, what have we talked about? Sir John A., Justin Trudeau, and roadkill. Look, to me, I want to talk a little bit. I'll wait for some calls at 750-1310. 750-1310, and 3 or 4 lines available there. Okay? I want to talk about the $1 billion bus ride, the electric bus ride, okay? I'm going to tell you 2 things about Ottawa that are carved in stone facts. One is Ottawa has a car culture. It has a car culture. We're a car city. We're not a bus city. We're not a public transit city the same way Toronto is. Certainly not like New York City is. We're a car city. City council doesn't get that. City council wants to force you into changing. So that's carved in stone fact number 1. Ottawa has a car culture. And carved in stone fact number 2 is that Ottawa's public transit system is all about rush hour. And I have the data to back it up. And you know what? It's the city's own data. It would be nice if your city councillor just admitted the truth, okay? That Ottawa has a car culture. All you have to do is look at the city's own numbers. This is how we get around this massive city of ours. We drive our own cars because that's what we like to do. It is our preferred mode of transportation. Car, not bus, not bicycle, car, overwhelmingly. Okay? The term in city planning speak is called the modal split. And the city keeps track of the modal split and has been keeping track of it for decades. Because for decades, city councilors have been trying to convince people to abandon their cars and take the bus, and now it's, take the light rail. And soon it will be take the electric bus. But the modal split is basically how many people drive, how many people take the bus, how many people use a bicycle to get around, how many people walk, how many people get a piggyback. That's called the modal split. And when you look at the number of people, and these are City of Ottawa numbers, okay? From the previous City of Ottawa Transportation Master Disaster Plan. When you look at the number of people that every day take transit, bicycle, or walk to get where they need to go, doesn't come anywhere close to the number of people who use their own private motor vehicles to get around, okay? I'm going to give you some hard and fast numbers. You think about everything that City Council has done to try and encourage you to abandon your car. In 2005, 6 out of 10 residents in Ottawa used their own vehicle to get around every day. 6 out of 10. 6 years later in the year 2011, the number was 6 out of 10. It didn't move at all. And that just counts the driver of the vehicle. When you account for passengers in the vehicles, people who rely on a driver to take them around during their daily routine, that's 13% of the residents of Ottawa. How do you get around? Someone drives me. I'm a passenger and someone drives me. My son or daughter drives me to where I need to go, or I take an Uber, or I take a taxi. But someone else drives me in a vehicle, 13%. So when you take the number of people who drive a car to get around and the number of people who are passengers relying on a driver to take them somewhere, it's more than 7 out of 10 residents in Ottawa. That's called a car culture. How do you get around? More than 7 out of 10 say, I drive or someone else drives me. Now, when you look at cycling, okay, and you think of all the money, all the planning, all the lobbying, all the moaning, the groaning, the endless encouragement, the debates about getting people out of cars, into bicycles, what kind of progress have we made on that front? It's 2% of residents. That's it. 2% of residents in Ottawa use a bicycle. What is your daily method of transportation? I use a bicycle. 2%, okay? In other words, 98% do not. And yet, look at the political influence of the cycling lobby at Ottawa City Hall. It's the most powerful 2% at Ottawa City Hall. And then you have public transit. $640 million a year it costs to run public transit in the city of Ottawa. And now its future, because of the pandemic, never more uncertain. The stunning thing for me is when you read the city reports, which I do as a public service to you, ladies and gentlemen. I read these reports so you don't have to. The stunning thing is the patterns of public transit use in Ottawa have not changed in 35 years. In 35 years. Now, the pandemic has cratered transit use. Nobody has any idea what ridership is going to look like post-pandemic. So I'm talking about the before times. But it's their data. It's the city's data. It's not my data. Use of public transit is highest during the morning and afternoon rush hour public transit. It's 22% of residents take the bus to and from work. The rest of the day, it is 15% of residents use public transit during off-peak periods. You know why? Because we have a car culture. That 15% figure is the same figure that it was in 1986. It has not changed as a percentage of the population since 1986. 1986. Crazy. Anne in Ottawa. Anne, go ahead.
Hi there, Rob.
Hi.
I am fired up about this, too, because as soon about this stupid bus thing, too, you're absolutely right. And, I mean, this past year, given all that happened, everyone that died in long-term care, I bet everybody was just sitting around saying, gee, I wish they'd waste $1 billion and get some electric buses so that we'll have better air instead of saving actual people. This is a ludicrous waste of money, and it's just typical.
I mean, the city of Ottawa owns and operates 4 long-term care homes. Okay, if you had $1 billion, where would you rather put it?
Long-term care, hello?
Yeah, long-term care.
But, I mean, to me, that's just, it's irresponsible and stupid, and people should bloody well realize it. But it's not just that. This is going to have to get paid for somehow. They're going to have, because they have to pay the money back. They're going to have to increase taxes. They're also going to have to increase the cost of the bus pass. Don't ever tell me a cost of a bus pass has ever gone down in price. And the thing is already high for what we get. It's not affordable for people anymore. Because if you've got 4 people that have to buy bus passes, I'm sure Dad would rather drive the other 3 people around than have everybody get a $130 bus pass or whatever it is now. I haven't bought one in a long time, so I have no idea. So there's that. That's just stupid. And they are way out of touch with reality, and I'm getting sick of this stuff. But I just about had a car accident yesterday because I was listening to the news on Global on your station, because I always have it on your station, on City. And Krista Freeland is actually doing a little soundbite on the news about how Aaron O'Toole is going to ruin the economy if he gets in. And I'm thinking, this is like saying somebody's going to get a shirt wetter than it is when it's already soaked. Given what they've done, tell me, let's see the magic trick where you've racked up all this debt that's going to have to be paid. I'm sorry, but it's going to have to be paid at some point by the rest of us. But also killing the goose that laid the golden egg, the energy industry. I mean, there's so many things that they have done to stymie that. It's crazy. Like, I don't know where people think we're going to get money for social programs, but if you don't get it out of a healthy economy fueled by the energy industry, they're going to have to beat the money out of the taxpayer. That's the only way they're going to get it, and you people are just deluded. You should go take a course with Dr. Ian Lee at the Sprott School of Business if you don't understand that.
All right. Thank you, Ann. Do you feel better now?
Thank you.
You feel better now? Okay. Bye-bye. Halftime, talk back hour, Friday Free for All Rob Snow Show. One line available for you there. Grab it. We'll be right back. This is City News.
In Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, June 18th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, there is a 17-degree temperature, and in Smiths Falls, also 17. And here's what's making news this hour. A little push from the city and more vaccines are on the way. Mayor Jim Watson tweeting moments ago, Ottawa getting 27,000 Moderna doses this week, and also a strategic allocation, he called it, of 33,500 more doses. Watson says this will enable the city to open up 5 more community clinics. These will open up on Monday. Clinics being held at Canadian Tire Centre, also Minto Sports Complex, Horticultural Building at Lansdowne, Canterbury Rec Centre, and Nepean Sportsplex. The number of new COVID cases in Ottawa has dropped to the single digits today. Latest number of COVID infections in Ontario shows 345 new cases. 9 of those are in Ottawa. They come from just over 26,600 tests completed. Positivity rate again today below 2%. Now, the province is also reporting 1 more death from COVID. In the other local health units in the region, there are 5 new cases in Eastern Ontario, but no new cases today in either Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, or Renfrew. Parents want assurances education for children will be in school in September. While that is the plan right now, that could change depending on the status of COVID cases as we get closer to September. NDP MPP Joel Harden joined parents in a demonstration at City Hall this morning. He says children need the social aspect of school. City News Time, 10:33. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Another issue that's in the news, local issue, is trash. We can trash talk if you want. Garbage collection, recycling. What are we going to do with all that stuff? You got a green bin that's picked up once a week. You have blue bin, black bin, alternating weeks. Garbage picked up every 2 weeks, which is still a sore spot for many residents, especially during the hot, sticky summer months. Where does it go after the truck picks it up, you may ask? You ever wonder that? Where do they take it? The blue and black box material goes to a place called Cascade Recovery. And the city pays that company about $6.5 million a year to take care of that stuff. And the green bin, what a fiasco, goes to what used to be called Oracle World. It's called something else now. Renewy. It used to be called Renewy. Maybe even changed his name a third time. That was quite possibly the single dumbest contract that the city ever signed until we climbed into bed with RTG and decided let's build some light rail for the city of Ottawa. 20-year deal, $9.5 million a year, $126 a ton for organic waste. Now, longtime loyal listeners know I did show after show after show on the stupid green bin contract. It is now morphed into the most expensive leaf and yard waste collection scheme ever created, because that's what goes in there. For the most part, it's leaf and yard waste. It's not eggshells and banana peels and coffee grinds. That's what it was supposed to be for. It's leaf and yard waste now. It was basically me and Sue sharing. We were the only two who were doing that story. The dumbest paint green bin contract. Thank you, Peter Hume, architect of the green bin contract. Just a quick reminder. We've been taken to the cleaners on this. It didn't take long to find out that we weren't coming anywhere close to the promised tonnage of the green bin contract, okay, when we signed up for this thing. So City Council said, let them put the leaf and yard waste in there. It'll juice the numbers up and we'll all look like geniuses. The thing is, we already had a system in place for that. You know, you put your paper bags out at the end of the curb, the truck comes by a couple of times a year, picks it up. It's called Leaf and Yard Waste Day. We took that stuff to Trail Road, and we did it for $15 a ton. $15 a ton. Now we pay $126 a ton for the same darn service. Dummies. And now, so they're talking about, well, should we have an incinerator? Clear bags. They do that where I'm from, Nova Scotia. Okay. Great for the garbage police. Pay to throw or tag a bag. It has many names. Basically, you put a limit on how many garbage bags that you can put out every 2 weeks. And if you want to put additional bags out, there's a user fee. They do it in Aurelia. They also had a big debate in Sudbury. Sudbury wanted to move to pick up the garbage once every 2 weeks. They stuck with once a week in Sudbury, but they brought in tag a bag, and it's like $10 for 5 tags. You want to put out more than 2 bags, you have to buy a tag. And they give you so many free tags at the beginning of the year, but when the tags are gone, you have to go to the hardware store or a licensed retailer, and the tags are like $2 a piece. Some of the stuff they're looking at. Because your property taxes aren't high enough already, right? And it's not like garbage and recycling is a core service or anything. David, to Ottawa South. Good morning, David.
Yes, good morning. Again, I can't help but agree with you, and I'm with the Lowell Green. Anne speaks with passion. Burn the darn stuff. I said that last week when I talked about the new plastics experiment. How long have we had a plastics recycle program, and now they want to put an experimental one in? I can't help but think, how stupid are these people? I got a better idea. Instead of putting in the green, maybe put it. I think the mayor.
That's rhetorical, right, David?
The mayor lives down Westboro, doesn't he?
The mayor lives in Westboro?
I think so. Does he?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, let's find out where it is and put it over there somewhere.
Okay.
But now the $1 billion bus thing.
$1 billion for electric buses, yeah.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing, right?
It doesn't make any sense. And you were right, the cost of the mining and the concrete and the everything else.
Yeah, well, that wasn't my point. That was Lowell's point.
Lowell's point, yeah. That's not going to.
No, but it's been known for a long time how bad lithium mining is, for example, for the environment. Just do a Google search and do a photo Google search for a lithium mine and what that looks like. It's
and it's not the CO2; it's the other dangers and everything else that's involved in that, and the raping of the land. If they want to look at that, my gosh, there's not a lick of common sense on the whole damn place.
Okay, thank you, David. Good stuff. Good stuff. I love the passion today. Irving in Orleans.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Irving.
The bus deal is a fairy tale.
A fairy tale, okay.
Right.
Why do you say that, Irving?
First of all,
yep.
The buses will be about 3 tons heavier than the diesel buses.
Yeah.
Which means the roads are going to break up.
Okay.
The second thing is, remember snow tires on
Can they break up any more than they're broken now?
Yep. Remember snow tires on buses?
Yeah, we've had some issues with snow tires on buses, and we buy buses, they don't even make snow tires for them. But
right.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, what are you going to do with the waste?
What waste?
They're going to be wasting.
Oh, the battery waste. Yeah, right. Yeah. Somebody asked that yesterday. I don't know what they do. I imagine they can I don't know. Do they recycle those batteries? I don't know.
Did the city council even mention that?
Look, it's green, sir. So it's good. It's got to be good. It's green. It's got to be good, right? That's our track record. Green is good. Green bins are good. Light rail is good. So electric buses, I mean, I think they wrote about electric buses in the New Testament. I'm pretty sure it's in there somewhere. Thank you, Irving. We're going to move along. Up next, Mike in Gloucester. Go ahead, Mike.
I call Rob. I'll try to stay calm, but I got half Italian blood in me, so stuff like this just clouds my blood. Glass bottles for Coke, Pepsi, all the soft drink industry. This has been driving me nuts for 40 years since I went to these plastic bottles. I used to recycle. I'm not one of these fake environmentalists like the fake feminist Mr. Dreamboat, their prime minister of ours. I used to pick up bottles and bring them back for a deposit when I was a kid, and that used to pay for my to go to the Ottawa exhibition when I was a kid in the 60s and 70s. Now we have diesel trucks showing up to our house with bins overflowing. 4 bins we have. Our neighbors, 5 bins, 6 bins, all overflowing with plastic bottles. Every time you make a Coke in a plastic bottle, you got to crush it down and make it. For 1,000 bottles of pop, you got to crush the bottle down 1,000 times and make 1,000 plastic bottles. Glass bottles, you go to the store, they bring them back to the Coca-Cola plant, they wash them out, they sanitize them, and they fill them up again. They last 1,000 times for one bottle. These fake environmentalists are driving me crazy.
You feel better now?
Oh, Rob,
it's therapeutic, isn't it? It's therapeutic. It's therapeutic.
So much better.
Yeah,
the pop in the glass bottles, all they do is go
it's
flat
more refreshing
after you open them
too.
10 minutes later.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's more refreshing too. It's more refreshing.
You
Thank
know,
you.
kids on bicycles, how much better is that for the environment? Kids on bicycles bringing Coke bottles and Pepsi bottles and Orange Crush bottles back to the corner store on their bicycle.
You're making me...
diesel trucks showing up
Gotcha.
here. Incinerate the damn garbage. And I want to mention one more thing, if you'll let me.
Go ahead.
It's about Mr. Dreamboat there. You said, does he deserve to get reelected?
That was yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, well,
day before yesterday.
He deserves a ticket with Mr. Bezos to go into outer space and please don't come back. And another thing about this vaccination, have you seen the new commercial by the federal government?
No, I have not.
A little ripple turns into a wave. Now he wants more waves, for God's sake. Is he going surfing again in his dreamboat?
Maybe I haven't seen the ad, but creating waves.
It's been on for 3 days.
Okay, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Mike, you're bouncing all over the place, man. But have you seen that ad, David? No, I haven't seen it.
I'll take a look for it here.
But if the visual is waves, he makes a good point. We don't want more waves. We don't want trickles that turn into waves, okay? Joanne in Orleans. Good morning, Joanne.
Good morning. Now you're going to have me looking up scripture to see if it's in there.
It's in there. It's somewhere in the back.
Yeah. With the parable of the end times. Yeah, I get it. I had to call because you brought up parking, because you brought up driving.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to bring up parking. I think the remnant of this pandemic is going to last a while. The whole pandemic has gotten us to fall in love with our cars again. I cannot see how people are going to voluntarily, easily, without worry or anxiety, jump onto public transit. I just don't. No. I think the idea that you are in your own bubble, you know, there are people who are worried about taking off their masks. They've been so affected by this that they want to keep wearing masks. Have at her, not me, but I'm not giving up my car. And if you look at the approval of the many apartment buildings that are being put up downtown and in the suburbs. So I'm in Orleans. There is an absolute woeful lack of parking in each building. There isn't even enough to represent one parking spot per unit. And most units are going to have more than one person. So they're setting up these pockets where the spillover is going to be in the neighborhood. There simply isn't enough parking for the building. They're using 1980 models to approve these buildings, commercial space on the bottom, and then X number of units. Nobody is going to stores, apparently, but every one of these apartment buildings is going to have a store underneath, at least one. Well, they should be replaced by parking, especially in the suburbs. Doesn't matter if you're on a train line. In North America, your car, your driver's license, that's a rite of passage. There's not a family I know that's not a rite of passage. So is buying your first car. I have kids waiting, saving to buy their first car. I have some, that is absolutely the goal, because it's a pain in the neck.
I wonder, the evidence would suggest the number of young people who are, say, becoming turning the age where they qualify for a driver's license, the number of teenagers who actually go and get the driver's license is way lower than it was, say, people our age, Joanne.
Gosh, no one I know.
Yeah. Well, maybe nobody you know, but overall. But I guess my point is, I argue we have a car culture, but we have a city council that lives in a la la land fantasy world. And believes, and I'm not sure, maybe it's because they only interact with really politically active people, but they really are under this impression that people are going to, once this pandemic is over, people can't wait to go out and buy Presto cards and hop on light rail or hop on a shiny new $1 billion electric bus. And I mean, money is no object. We're dealing with a bunch of starry-eyed counselors here. We know, you and I have talked about this on programs, they've been waging war on the automobile in this city for years, okay? You think of all the things that the city has done to make driving more onerous in this city. It's narrowed streets, it's reduced parking, as you mentioned, it's narrowed sidewalks, dedicated bus lanes, segregated bike lanes, even putting bike lanes on dangerous, busy arterial roads where they have no business being. Okay, we put a lot of money into the cycling network to serve 2% of the commuting public. We've done all of this, right? And public transit ridership is the same now as a percentage of the population that it was in 1986, Joanne.
Yeah, I
okay.
think
I was in the 10th grade. I was in the 10th grade. All right. I got to go. Thank you. 10:47. This is City News.
It started out with a small outdoor booth in what was called Artist Alley, which is actually the area just outside our store on William Street, where for a couple of years we sold our jewelry directly on the street. And then we slowly evolved to having an indoor location in this building, 55 Barwood Market Square. We then moved to another location in Place de Ville, and then moved back down here on Dalhousie Street at Ear Gear in the 90s, and then back into this building again in 2000 as a collection. I do a collection of jewelry called Cirque that's mainly beaded work with a combination of semi-precious and vintage beads. And then she does a hat collection called Fanfreluche that's all cut and sewn hats in a variety of fabrics and for all of the seasons of the year. We've curated and sourced the artisans that we represent in a lot of different ways over the years since it's been, since 1985. Some people come to us since we're known, and other artisans that we represent might recommend that they come and see us. Some people we find at craft shows, or we see their work, somebody wears it in, and we go and track it down and bring it. And then some people, interestingly, are with us in one medium, and then sometimes they evolve to another. They're all Canadian and mainly local. With the roughly 50 people that we have, I'd say more than half of those are Ottawa-Gatineau, and then the rest are from other cities in Canada, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, etc. If you can afford it, go to a small business and spend some money. It's lovely when you come in and, give me a pep talk and tell me how much you love this place and you've been coming here for years. But if you can afford it, please spend some money too, because all the pep talks in the world are not going to pay my rent, which is still full rent even when we're closed. Then secondly, if you can't afford to spend money, follow the businesses that you want to support on social media. Go to their Instagram, go to their Facebook, follow their Twitter, and then retweet, share their Facebook page, like and comment. Because if you can't afford to, as many of us can't right now, to do extra expenditures, doing all of those little things like that will raise the visibility of those small businesses, and hopefully for them result in some online or curbside or other business for them.
Time to talk back.
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
I say, David, we have a car culture, right? I should say we have a cars culture, because the fact is, if you live in Canada or Orleans or Barrhaven, the chances are better than 50-50 that you actually have two cars.
Oh, yeah.
That's according to city data as well.
I grew up out there. I can tell you that's true.
Live in Canada, more than half the households in Canada have two cars. It's 50-50 in Orleans. It's 60% in Barrhaven. more 2 cars in the driveway, and 8% of Ottawa's households have 3 or more cars.
Not uncommon to see an extra
3 or more
people
cars.
add extensions to their driveways for their third car.
Yeah, and people are parking on the streets and they're parking on their lawns and everything else, right? Yeah. Okay, cars culture. David, the Byward Market. David, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, David.
I just wanted to talk a little briefly about the, excuse me, I'll take my mask off, about the bus.
The electric buses, yeah?
Yes.
$1 billion, sir.
If we're already committed to phase 2 and phase 3 of light rail, and we have no idea what kind of revenue is going to be coming out of that, given that we don't know how many people are going to be actually riding. Why are we putting $1 billion more into transit? With that sort of up in the air.
You've nailed it.
If working at home becomes the norm, and I can't see why not, if we could, how much money the government or whoever could save on not having to rent out office space. If that stays, the stats that you gave about using public transit, I think are going to go down even further.
Yeah, I would suggest so.
Or lean more towards people using their cars. And I just wanted to touch too on a point that the lady made earlier, or actually you sort of expounded on. When people like to have their car because riding the bus is a little iffy now because of, I've been on buses there where absolutely every seat was full, and I was a little uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, look, in my younger days, I've been on buses where it's been standing room only, sir. Like you really get up close and personal with people.
Yeah, it hasn't got back to that, but it has.
No, but
you can't distance on a bus at some times, and I questioned them on that, and they had no answer for me.
Yeah.
And, the other thing you were mentioning about being a car culture, when you close off parking or have no parking areas and bicycles only, and you're doing this mostly in, say, Centertown market area and all that, all you're doing is cutting off business to those areas by the car culture, who is the majority. These people are going to take the 417, they'll go to Canada, they'll go to the big box stores, they'll
train yards,
shop there.
Train yards,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they'll go to the these stores, and all the independent stores in the market area and all that are going to be suffer for it.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. You could say, maybe we should ask ourselves, are we headed for a repeat of Spark Street, for example, sir?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good question, David.
But it's just the money. Any councillor should be asked there, how are you going to know that this is going to be able to pay for itself or pay itself back? They won't be able to answer you on this, and that's tragic.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, very well said. And if it cost, this is 450 buses that we're converting or trading in, I guess, right? I would remind you that first of all, there are about 1,000 buses in all. So this is almost half the fleet. But then there's the other city fleet, and that's about 2,400 vehicles. I'm talking, and I know the numbers. I have read the city report on it. It's 77 ambulances, 112 fire trucks, 460 heavy vehicles, 937 light vehicles, and 769 pieces of equipment considered to be part of the city's fleet. It's $300 million worth. And we usually buy 100 new vehicles every year at the city of Ottawa. We spend about $25 million doing it. What's it going to cost to turn all of those green? If 450 vehicles cost $1 billion, how much, somebody do some quick ratio math for me, how much to convert 2,400 vehicles to all electric? Do that number for me.
Uh-oh.
Rodney.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, hey, so I was going to give you my thoughts on Sir John A. And to start off with, people that are sort of pointing and picking out to John A., it was actually the people of Canada that elected John A. And the people of Canada that elected other politicians that, kept the same system going with the residential schools. And the point of cultural loss is it's actually a point of they had the whole program back to front. And what I mean about that is they should have sent the kids of the city folk and the politicians out to the reservations to learn how to live in Canada. And then, that wouldn't have happened for a couple different reasons. One, I'm going to think that the conditions on the reservations would have been too harsh and shocking for the kids of the politicians and, for everybody type thing.
Okay.
And then the other reason would be just if you went back hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years into the culture, the Indigenous Native people, they learned how to live and to survive in Canada. That's why Canada, North America, was a wealth of bounty for colonialism, to come to. But the people coming for colonialism, they had to change everything to be able to live or to survive in the country type thing.
Okay. Got to run, Rodney. Thank you. Right. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Fair enough. Those are Rodney's thoughts. Okay. I want to take this one. Martin is in Blackburn Hamlet. You're on City News. Good morning.
Good morning. First-time caller.
Appreciate it, sir. Greatly.
Yes, I just wanted to say, because I guess I have a time limit, that we were talking about electric stuff, and I had this little bean in my hat about electric cars. Mm-hmm. GM and Ford and all those guys are talking about retooling and going into electric cars.
Big time, yep.
Big time, right?
Yep.
And then I live in an apartment that's just been built about 4 years ago. There's no place for me to plug my car in. If you drive down Riverside and see all those big, tall buildings, where, heaven's name, is everybody going to be plugged? You talk about retooling. Where is everybody going to get to plug their cars in?
Okay. Yeah, it's a good question, sir.
So
good question.
I'm looking at, I'm a 67-year-old fellow.
Yeah.
I'll be 67 in July. And I'm looking at probably getting one more car, and I'm hoping that I get the last gas car. To drive it. So that's my point. I just want to say one thing. Can I say one more quick thing about...
Very quickly, yeah, sure.
The fellow that called in about collecting the bottles, I did the same thing when I was a kid, and that really was good. But I think kids nowadays, even if it's 10 cents deposit, they're not going to collect the money because, their mom's giving $50 to buy a Game Boy, game and stuff like that. Okay. I don't see them saving up 10 cents. They'd have to increase the
deposit. The deposit. Yeah. $2,000 a month. How's that sound?
That sounds pretty well.
Thank you. Thank you for all your calls. I didn't get to everybody. I was very talkative. I apologize. We'll be back after the 11 o'clock news. We're going to talk about the O'Leary bus crash. Not the bus crash. Boat crash. Pardon me. The boat crash that happened in exclusive cottage country. It's been quite a trial this week. We'll get some legal analysis when we come back after the 11 o'clock news on City News.
is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smith Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 1011 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, June 18th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa and Smith Falls, 17 degrees, and here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The city is getting 60,500 more doses of vaccine this week. Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson tweeting that number, saying it will enable the city to open 5 more community clinics on Monday. Clinics for vaccinations against COVID-19 will be held at Canadian Tire Centre, Meadow Sportsplex, Horticultural Building at Lansdowne, Canterbury Rec Centre, and Nepean Sportsplex. The number of new COVID cases in Ottawa has dropped to a single digit. Latest numbers of COVID infections in Ontario show of 345 new cases today province-wide, 9 are in Ottawa. The other health units in the region reporting 5 new cases in Eastern Ontario, but none in either Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, or Renfrew County. Breaking news as well from the federal government announcing its restrictions for international travel, including to the United States, now extended to July 21st. Here's City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney.
There had been hope that in a matter of weeks we could see the start of a gradual return to travel like vacations or cross-border shopping. But Public Safety Minister Bill Blair has tweeted the restrictions barring non-essential travel at all our borders, including the land crossing with the U.S., will be in place at least another month. Blair says the government's number one priority is keeping Canadians safe, and this decision was made in coordination with the U.S. However, he does add on Monday the federal government will be announcing new measures for fully vaccinated Canadians that are currently allowed to enter the country. The health minister has already said that they are looking at ending quarantine measures for fully vaxxed travelers. Businesses, tourism groups, and politicians on both sides of the border have been pushing for a much broader lifting of restrictions, and they wanted to see it done soon. The Prime Minister had a call with premiers about the border plan last night and is scheduled to hold a news conference this morning. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
City News time 11:03, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
An unsettled stretch of weather moves in. We've got some wet weather today, mainly for the afternoon. A gusty southwest wind. High 24 will feel like 28. Scattered showers and thunderstorms tonight and at times for Saturday as well. Sunday, Father's Day, should feature lots of sunshine. For today, the high 24.
And right now in Ottawa and Smith Falls, 17 degrees. Roughly 100 parents, along with members of the provincial opposition, rallied outside City Hall in Ottawa this morning, calling for permanent in-person learning this fall in school. Here's City News reporter Alex Gouge.
The Speak Up for Kids rally called on the Ford government to have a plan for permanent in-person learning well ahead of the start of the school year. Ottawa Centre MPP Joel Harden was among those in attendance and explains the need to have kids back in the classroom.
Students crave the social aspects of learning. There's so much of communication that is nonverbal, and there's so many important relationships staff and students build in in-person learning. But frankly, all I see with this government is the desire to save a buck.
Another speaker, grade 9 student Eden, says leaders should be listening to health and science advice, but that isn't what the leaders in Ontario are doing. At City Hall, Alex Gouge, City News.
And I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News 1011 FM
and 1310 AM.
I'm going to talk now about the O'Leary boat crash trial. Linda O'Leary is the wife of the Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary, and she's on trial for her role in a boat crash that killed 2 people in cottage country. She was charged under the small vessel regulations within the Canada Shipping Act, and she faces a potential fine, for allegedly operating a boat in a careless manner. The crash happened back in August of 2019. So let's get some legal analysis here from Ottawa criminal lawyer David Anber of David Anber Law. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
It's nice to hear from you. Is this a criminal trial?
Well, no, it's not. And I think listening to your introduction of the topic, I think your question is really, well, why? Why isn't it a criminal trial?
Yeah.
And I mean, the best...
If it was a car, it'd be a criminal trial.
Oh, well, no, and I think I'm glad that you brought that comparison up, because I was going to use that as an analogy that I think fits this situation.
Okay.
In most cases, when there's an automobile accident that results in some pretty significant damage or injury or death to a person, in most cases it ends up being a criminal charge. There's different criminal charges. Dangerous driving, causing bodily harm or death, as the case may be, is one. Criminal negligence is an even higher level with higher penalties that could be involved. But it isn't always the case, Rob, that they proceed by way of criminal charges. It can sometimes be the case that the offense of careless driving, for example, under the Highway Traffic Act, can even be used in a situation where there is serious bodily injury or even death.
Okay, so why did this case proceed as it did? Because as I understand it, it's a federal case. Is it fair to call it a federal case, David?
Right. The roadways, to go back to the analogy, the roadways in our city falls under the laws of the Highway Traffic Act and also the criminal code as well. Whereas the waterways fall under federal legislation and would also potentially be under the criminal code. So I think the idea is the conduct is what matters in this particular case. So it's very easy sometimes to think serious consequences should result in serious charges, and often those two things overlap. But the consequences are not what decide what charges are laid and ultimately what charges are proven or not proven. Sometimes you can have conduct that is lower than a criminal level of conduct, but that has very serious consequences. And sometimes you can have very serious conduct that's worthy of being prosecuted as a criminal offense that doesn't have very serious consequences. So you can't use the consequences as the guide as to whether or not the charges should be criminal or not.
Okay. So in this case, the charge careless boating under the small vessel regulations within the Canada Shipping Act carries a penalty of, if convicted, of a $10,000 fine. What would you say to people who say, well, that seems lenient?
Well, yeah, and I think it comes back to that central question of what is the conduct that's being alleged here.
Okay.
Now, it may be that the charge wasn't the right charge. I don't know enough about the individual facts to put myself in the shoes of the police to engage in a Monday morning quarterback of the decision to charge. But understand that if, let's say she had been charged under the criminal code, okay, for dangerous operation of a conveyance. A conveyance can be a railway equipment, a car, a boat, etc. So if she had been charged under the criminal offense of dangerous, what used to be called dangerous driving, but now it's dangerous operation of a conveyance, the prosecution would have to prove that the person engaged not just in a departure from normal standard of care, not just the fact that bad things happened, not just the fact that they did bad things, but that they engaged in what's called a marked departure. And so what I infer from the decision to charge her under that act, and rest assured that when somebody dies, certainly a lot of scrutiny is given by both the police under advice of the Crown as to which charge to lay. But I think the ultimate decision was that they did not feel they had sufficient grounds to believe that Ms. O'Leary had engaged in conduct that constituted a marked departure. By charging her with careless boating, they're saying that her conduct was a departure. She wasn't exercising sufficient care or due care and attention.
Right. She was
in
careless.
the manner in which she operated her boat.
Right.
Rise to a level of a marked departure that gives rise to a criminal offense. So that's why she's being charged under the less serious legislation with the less serious penalties.
Okay. It's all very complicated, isn't it? Okay. Let's talk about what each side is saying. Do you mind?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. It seems to me, this is my own reading just based on the media coverage, reading a lot of the media coverage of it this week. You have a pontoon boat and it has 12 people on it, and they've just had a dinner party. They want to go out stargazing. It's 11:30 at night. The owner of that boat, a doctor from Buffalo, says, absolutely, my lights were on my boat. Linda O'Leary is in a speedboat, allegedly going fast, but nobody knows how fast. And her legal team seems pretty adamant, and that the defense seems to be there were no lights on the boat. How do you reconcile something like that in a courtroom?
Well, Rob, in many ways...
Because it's kind of like he said, she said.
Right, and in many ways this doesn't differ from the vast majority of cases that courts hear. I mean, what we have, we're not dealing with roadways, right, that are clearly marked places of travel with traffic signals and large quantities of people travel on it every day, so it's highly enforced. When you're dealing with the waterway, and I'm not a boater myself, but you're dealing with a waterway that has its own rules, recognizing that it's a bit more of an uncontrolled environment. It's also a situation where the lighting may not necessarily be favorable to avoid these types of situations. And so boaters have certain obligations placed on them to ensure they're operating their boat in a safe manner. If what the alleged victims are saying is true, that their boat was fully lit, then the almost the only inference that you could draw is that the only way you could miss a fully lit boat sort of on an open area of water is if you weren't engaging in sufficient care and attention. But if as the accused or as the defendant is raising that the boat was not, contrary to what was originally said, sufficiently lit, then it can make sense that it was a tragic accident which took place, but it wasn't a result of her misconduct or failing to follow one of her obligations. And so this is something that comes up in all sorts of criminal trials, is that one witness for the prosecution says something which supports the prosecution, but then the defense lawyer has a chance to cross-examine them. And if my understanding is correct, I believe, having followed the story a little bit, is that witnesses who said that the lights were on have equivocated over that.
Yes, they have. They said, well, one originally said to the investigators the lights were on, but went under cross-examination, wavered and said, well, I don't really remember.
Right, and what somebody says on a previous occasion where it's different than what they're saying in court can be a badge of unreliability.
Okay.
And I also note that I did a little bit of research this morning just looking at this, and I believe that the operator of the small boat, the pontoon boat, had himself been charged with failing to have sufficient lights on.
This is what it says in the National Post just today. Faced a charge of failing to have a stern light on his boat. A key issue at trial is whether the boat was properly lit. If it wasn't, it would be harder to prove carelessness. The doctor spent $40,000 fighting the ticket before paying a $125 fine and signing an attestation of neither innocence or guilt. He told court this week, $40,000 to fight a $125 ticket, and in the end you pay a $125 ticket. I mean, I don't know if that helps the case at all.
Well, I think what it all boils down to is that Ms. O'Leary is presumed innocent.
Yes.
In order to be found guilty of any type of offense, whether it's a purely criminal offense or a quasi-criminal offense like a boating legislation, shipping act type charge, the Crown needs to prove her guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Carelessness needs to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And so even where there is some evidence to suggest that the lights may have been on adequately, or even some evidence that suggests the lights were probably on adequately, if there is reason in the judge's mind to doubt that, to feel that there's a reasonable basis to think that the lights were not on properly, then she should be acquitted, unless there's another dimension of the case that I'm not taking into consideration here. And the fact that a witness has equivocated over the lights as having been on and now they are not able to describe that to some degree, and the fact that the operator of the boat that had the alleged victims on it, that operator was found guilty for not having sufficient lighting, and the circumstances of how he was found guilty is the subject of a debate right now. But those 2 points are important considerations for a judge to look at when deciding whether or not there is a reasonable doubt.
Wow. Very interesting. Thank you so much for your insight this morning, David. It's great to hear from you.
You're welcome, Rob. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. David Anber Law. 11:16. This is City News.
Well, we all loved our rock T-shirts growing up, right? It was our badge. Hey, we went to this concert. We knew that band inside out. So we kept doing that and kept promoting that. What's sort of happening now is that audience is dying. I always say the earth is flat. So the 60s rockers are falling off the end of the earth. So you don't see as big a sales anymore because my audience is disappearing. What's sort of helping to promote that history is the kids are buying vinyl. And luckily we have a vinyl shop in the neighborhood here, Record Center. So what's happening is I've seen kids come in with their dad. And the dad say, hey, do you have any Beatles shirts? Do you have any CBGB? Do you have any of this? I said, well, why? He said, well, because my daughter's into it. She's wearing my T-shirt. So slowly it's coming back, right? The kids are, I think, getting fed up with the generic music that's out there. And they want to click into something that, first of all, links them to their parents, something that they thoroughly enjoy now, and maybe they're passing it on to their grandkids. Pandemic has been a couple of things, definitely hard on everybody. So much messaging that's out there that people don't understand, stats that every day, Jesus Murphy, like I'm getting a headache just reading this stuff, right? So really it was just trying to understand where we were going to go from there. The city of Ottawa all of a sudden said, everybody's got to wear a mask. You got to wear it on the bus. People were scrambling, okay? And I had, the store next door had really big windows, so I just flooded the window with masks. Well, that was the activity that saved the business. People were coming in buying 2, 3, 4 masks at a time at $20 a pop here. But my masks were so different. They were the Rolling Stones, Beatles, Queen, all the pop culture. Everything else out there was medical masks. And right, so people said, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to show my rock and roll. So it became the new T-shirt as far as I'm concerned. Well, what I've done, I'm Hindenburg. I'm now at 1114A Wellington Street, which is next door to the Fab Gear store. And the reason I've changed names, I've rebranded the store, is because I was planning on retiring. And in December, I go, oh, I'm not going to retire. But I've committed to changing what the store is about. So I came up with a new name, Fab Gear's Rock Shop, where legends are dressed. And essentially get that message out. I prefer, if the shirt don't fit, you come in, you try another one on. People like to feel the fabrics with clothing. It's amazing. You'll come in and go, oh, I love that. Oh, can I try this? So that's the big difference. I'm not out to make a gazillion dollars. I stick the way I am, old school. I take cash, we take cards. Come on in and talk to the owner.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
In sports, what a great sports couple of days coming up. First of all, tonight, of course, we have Montreal Canadiens, Vegas Golden Knights, 8 o'clock face-off in Montreal. More fans in the stands, I believe 3,500 allowed at Bell Center tonight. Let's get into that and much more. Steve Warne is back, Sens Nation podcast. Steve Warne Project, good morning.
Good morning, Robert.
Great to hear from you. So it's tied 1-1. So the Habs have stolen a home ice advantage here. What have you thought of this series so far, Steve?
Well, Montreal's been impressive, the way they've come out in games, and you got to give some credit to their head coach for that, to have them that ready for the opening face-off. I mean, Montreal's bread and butter in this run seems to be come out like angry hornets in the first period, and then kind of with the tank on empty, lean hard on defense and carry price. Scoring first has been absolutely crucial for the Habs. They're 9-1 when they've scored first in these playoffs.
Yeah.
So I thought, Montreal surprising me a little. When we spoke last week, I don't think I gave them very much love it all. I thought Vegas in 5. That's not looking very good right now. And as it shifts to Montreal, yeah, like you said, they have home advantage. And they have another 1,000 fans they'll let into the game, and 1,000 in Montreal will probably sound like 20,000 more.
Oh, yeah. I should say there's some developing news out of Montreal right now within the last hour here. The Canadian Press is reporting, this is the report that I have, the Montreal Canadiens say interim head coach Dominic Ducharme has been sent home and is isolating following irregularities, is what they're calling it, in his COVID-19 test. He was supposed to have a news conference this morning. That's been canceled. It doesn't mean he won't be behind the bench. It just means there's been an irregularity. So, well, I guess he's already had his 2 doses of vaccine, by the way. So, that'd be so. I wonder. Let's say he can't be behind the bench. I wonder how that would affect the team's performance, Steve. I don't know.
Well, the first thing I'd say would be how weird it is.
It's weird, yeah.
It would be the second year in a row that the Habs in the playoffs have lost their head coach. You'll remember Claude Julien left the club because of a heart issue.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it would be the second year in a row. And the effect, I don't know that it would be a massive effect. You'd certainly lose what Ducharme brings to the table as a head coach. And generally speaking, that would be in-game adjustments. But what you might lose there, you perhaps gain in the motivation department. This is assuming this is with the making the jump that he might not be behind the bench. There might be some motivation for the players, win one for the Gipper kind of thing. And they've also got a couple of guys on the bench that are really well regarded. A couple of former Ottawa Senators who could be running the show on the bench tonight in Luke Richardson and Alex Burrows.
Oh, interesting. Okay. To me, a big, I said last week, Steve, when you were here, they're going to go as far as Carey Price is going to take them. But I think the difference maker for Montreal, to me, and I've always been a fan, is Tyler Toffoli. He played for the Ottawa 67s. He was an outstanding player for the Ottawa 67s, everybody remembers. And I was thinking early when they were playing the Leafs, I was like, where is Tyler Toffoli? He's nowhere. And then all of a sudden, he's been lighting it up for them. So he's been great, too.
He sure has. I remember this time last year when Toffoli was available in free agency. And, there's a 2-time 50-goal scorer for the Ottawa 67s a decade ago. Really not that expensive. Seemed like he'd be right in the Sens' wheelhouse. But when the Habs got him to a 4-year, $17 million deal,
wow!
I honestly thought, well, I might be pushing it a little bit. But in hindsight, man, that might be the best signing of the summer last year. Like, he's playing like a $10 million player. 9 points in his last 7 games, 2 game-winning goals. He's been a beast for Montreal, and credit to Marc Bergevin, who's been much maligned for what was a tremendous signing and really good foresight.
Okay. What do you think of the other series? Tampa leads 2-1 over the Islanders.
Well, it's Tampa Bay. I mean, they get all the love for their elite scoring with guys like Kucherov and Stamkos and Point, but they're even outplaying the Islanders defensively, and that's Barry Trotz's bread and butter. I really think they've taken control of this series now. It's only 2-1, but I feel like Tampa Bay's just got everything going for them right now. And you look at a guy like, because last time we spoke, I raved about J.G. Pajot. I mean, a guy for the Tampa Bay Lightning like Braden Point, he is just absolutely on fire, as is Kucherov, leading all playoff scorers. But Braden Point has been just unbelievable. He's got a goal-scoring streak of 6 straight. He's got 11 goals in the playoffs so far. And so, yeah, Tampa Bay is just firing on all cylinders, and I really think they'll win that series.
Let's talk some golf. U.S. Open is, they'll play round 2 today. Some people are finishing up. I don't know if they finished up the first round already. They didn't finish it last night. I have it on here. Looks kind of foggy and wet in San Diego for Torrey Pines, and I made a prediction. I should stop making golf predictions. I picked Justin Rose. He's at 8 over. David picked Morikawa. Morikawa's at 4 over. Did you pick somebody? Who'd you pick, Steve, to take it?
Well, my guy's looking really good right now, and John Rahm.
John Rahm is 2 under right now, I see.
Yeah, I think he's just so hungry right now. He's one of the, we always talk about that as golf fans. Who's the best player to have never won a major? And John Rahm may be that guy. And the last 3 years, he's posted at least one top 5 finish at every major, and probably still in closer mode right now, Rob, because you think about a couple of weeks back, imagining finishing round 3, you got a 6-stroke lead, and they tell you right on the 18th green you have COVID. Yeah. And I think he's probably sort of spinning his wheels here, wanting to get that, that taste of victory. And now that I know Rahm is up there after round 1, I think he's just going to be a little more focused than everybody else for the last 3 rounds. So that's the guy that I selected for this weekend.
Okay. In all my years of being a golf fan, I don't know if I've ever been more excited about Canadian players on tour. Every major tournament, there seems to be a Canadian, at least around. I see Adam Hadwin's at 1 under right now, so that he's tied for 10th right now, which is great. I even see Mike Weir seems to have his game back on the senior tour, and who was it? Ames? Is that his name? Ames?
Stephen Ames, yeah.
He won the other day on the senior tour. So, and of course, Brooke Henderson's the greatest Canadian golfer of all time already, despite her age. God, it's a great time to be a Canadian golf fan, I think, Steve.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was always fascinated with the Canadian golfer when I was growing up, because it just seemed like there was always maybe one, maybe two. There never seemed to be the quantity that we have right now. It was always back in the day, Halderson or Dick Zokel, Laurie Kane, Don Coe Jones. Like there didn't seem to be very many of them, and they never
toutes et à tous. Thank you for joining us. Merci d'être parmi nous aujourd'hui. We are here today to provide an update on the City of Ottawa's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Nous sommes ici aujourd'hui pour vous fournir une mise à jour sur les mesures prises par la Ville d'Ottawa pour faire face à la pandémie de COVID-19. My name is Kendra Titley and I will be your moderator. Je m'appelle Kendra Titley et je serai l'animatrice de cette séance. Before we begin, a reminder to place your microphone on mute until I invite you to ask your question. Avant de commencer, j'aimerais vous rappeler de désactiver votre microphone jusqu'à ce que je vous invite à poser votre question. Today, we will be hearing remarks from Councillor Keith Eglai, Chair, Ottawa Public Health Board, the Conseiller Keith Eglai, Président du Conseil de Santé d'Ottawa, followed by Dr. Brent Malachny, Deputy Medical Officer of Health, Médecin Adjoint en Santé Publique, and Anthony Demonte, General Manager of Emergency and Protective Services, Directeur Général des Services de Protection et d'Urgence. After we hear from the panelists, we will take questions from the media. We will now begin with remarks by Councillor Keith Eglai.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Bonjour, Quay. I'd like to thank everyone who's participating in today's media availability, either on the Zoom call or watching through our YouTube live stream. I know many people continue to be anxious about accessing their second dose of COVID-19 vaccine or booking a second dose appointment for a parent or a grandparent. Dr. Malachny and Mr. Demonte will speak to the latest recommendations on second doses and the anticipated increase in vaccine availability. For those who have not yet booked a first dose, we continue to encourage them to do so as soon as possible in order to start your vaccine series. Our overall objective is to get as many people as possible fully vaccinated in the next several weeks. That means both first and second doses in order to protect against the variants of concern. In the meantime, we continue to encourage residents to get out, enjoy the beautiful weather and outdoor amenities. We know this is beneficial to both our physical and our mental well-being. We only ask that you do so safely, avoid crowded areas, wear a mask, where physical distancing may be difficult, stay home if you are sick, and if you're experiencing symptoms of COVID-19, please get tested. I also want to take this opportunity to wish everyone a happy Father's Day. With the province's recent move to step one of its reopening plan, we can now have small outdoor celebrations. Just keep the number of people attending to no more than 10. This means that people from different households can celebrate Father's Day together this year. Just remember to do it outdoors. Keep 2 meters apart, wear masks if you can't maintain distance, and wash your hands frequently. Thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Malachny.
Good morning. Bonjour, Quay. Current COVID-19 monitoring indicators tell us that outbreaks, hospitalizations, and the number of people testing positive for COVID continue to decline. This is good news. That said, the COVID-19 wastewater viral signal is going up, suggesting more transmission of COVID-19 in our city. And fewer people are getting tested for COVID. Therefore, the reported number of infections continues to be an underestimate of the number of infections in the community. Many people can be asymptomatic or had not been tested with mild illness. Additionally, the level of transmission in the community is much higher than it was last summer, and we are now contending with more transmissible COVID variants compared with the original virus last year. We will need to reach higher levels of immunization with 2 doses before we can rely on vaccines alone to keep COVID at a low manageable level, and this will not happen until closer to the end of the summer at the earliest. This summer, how much the level of COVID-19 rises in the community depends directly on our collective actions. Cet été, la hausse du niveau de la COVID-19 dans notre communauté dépend directement de nos gestes collectifs. We can soon expect further guidance at the federal and provincial levels for people at different stages of the vaccination series. For now, our advice is the same for everyone, regardless of vaccine status. Continue to maintain a distance from those outside your household, wear a mask when you can't maintain distance, choose lower risk activities, stick with outdoors when gathering with others, and avoid crowded places. And I would like to remind everyone to continue daily screening of COVID-19 and seek testing if you or your child experiences any COVID symptoms. Je vous encourage de continuer le dépistage quotidien pour la COVID-19 et d'aller vous faire dépister à une clinique si vous ou votre enfant ressentez des symptômes de la COVID-19. Even if you're working from home, and even though children are no longer in school, this is especially important since day camps are now permitted and children will be mixing with others outside the home. Visit our website to find out how, when, and where you should get tested. Yesterday, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization, or NACI, updated its recommendations for those who received AstraZeneca for their first dose. In this scenario, NACI states that a second dose with an mRNA vaccine, Moderna or Pfizer, is now preferred based on emerging evidence of a potentially better immune response from this mixed vaccine schedule and to mitigate the potential risk of rare but severe blood clots associated with AstraZeneca. Either Moderna or Pfizer are safe options for a second dose if you received AstraZeneca first. Now, for those who received AstraZeneca for both doses, you can rest assured that the vaccine provides good protection against infection and very good protection against severe disease and hospitalization. You do not need to receive another vaccine, and you are now considered fully immunized. Now, if you received an mRNA vaccine for your first dose, so either Moderna or Pfizer, it's recommended that you receive the same vaccine for your second dose if it's readily available. However, if the same mRNA vaccine is not readily available, NACI states another mRNA vaccine is considered interchangeable and should be used to complete the vaccination series. So, if you receive Pfizer for your first dose, you can get Moderna for your second dose and vice versa, and it is safe to do so. Both Moderna and Pfizer rely on the same scientific approach to protect against COVID-19 infection. They have very similar effectiveness and side effect profiles. Moderna et Pfizer utilisent la même approche scientifique pour protéger contre la COVID-19. Ils ont une efficacité et des profils d'effets secondaires très similaires. Vaccine interchangeability is not a new concept. Getting the same vaccine for the first and second dose or an interchangeable schedule are both considered valid options, and both will count as a completed series. Earlier, I mentioned that our behaviors directly impact COVID numbers, and while we can expect an increase in COVID indicators as we move into step one, it doesn't have to be significant if we keep up with public health measures in place. For students, it's probably been the most difficult and challenging year you've ever had in school. As you approach the end of the school year, it's time to celebrate everything you accomplished and enjoy time with your friends. You can still do so while still doing your part to help reduce the spread of COVID-19. Keep gatherings outdoors. Enjoy that bonfire, pool party, or beach day, but limit your contacts. The current limit to outdoor gatherings is 10 people, and try to keep it to the same people. I know it's hard and you want to hug your friends, but it's best to maintain a distance of at least 2 meters for now. Always bring a mask with you in case you can't maintain a distance from others, and bring your own drinks and snacks and don't share them with others. If everyone does their part by getting vaccinated as soon as they can and maintaining public health measures, I am hopeful that we can all enjoy a safer, happier summer. Si tout le monde fait sa part en se faisant vacciner le plus tôt possible et en observant les mesures de santé publique, j'espère que nous pourrons tous profiter d'un été plus sécuritaire et plus heureux. Thank you. Merci, miigwech.
Thank you, Dr. Malakmi. We'll now hear remarks from Mr. DeMonte.
Good morning. Bonjour. We continue to use the vaccine supply allocated to Ottawa and are making significant progress in vaccinating our community. When combined with pharmacies, primary care, and other channels, over 90,000 Ottawa residents received the vaccine last week alone. This is a testament to our collective resolve to protect one another against COVID-19. Plus de 90 000 résidents d'Ottawa ont reçu un vaccin la semaine dernière seulement. Ceci témoigne de notre détermination collective à se protéger l'un des autres contre la COVID-19. To date, nearly 820,000 total doses have been administered in Ottawa, and 75% of adults have received at least one dose. Now, with more vaccines on the way, we are prepared to ramp up our operations. We are receiving 27,000 doses of Moderna today, with an additional 25,000 that are being sent to local pharmacies. Combined, these 52,000 doses represent the first allocation to Ottawa of over 9 million Moderna doses the federal government has announced it expects to receive through the end of June. Further, in addition to the 5,000 doses provided to the city last week, the province has confirmed we will receive another strategic allocation of 33,500 doses of Moderna tomorrow, bringing the total to 38,500 additional doses over the past 2 weeks. En plus de 5 000 doses fournies à la ville la semaine dernière, la province a confirmé que nous recevrons une autre allocation stratégique de 33 500 doses de Moderna demain. Ceci porte le total à 38 500 doses supplémentaires au cours des 2 dernières semaines. This reflects what staff have consistently requested from the province and what was recently supported publicly by Mayor Watson. Regular deliveries of Pfizer also continue, and some AstraZeneca is available in selected pharmacies and primary care settings. With more supply, we can publish additional appointments in the system and open more community clinics. Avec un approvisionnement plus important, nous pouvons publier les rendez-vous supplémentaires dans le système et ouvrir de plus de cliniques communautaires. Next week, we will open additional clinics at the Canadian Tire Centre, University of Ottawa, Nepean Sportsplex Curling Rink, the Horticultural Building, and Canterbury Recreational Complex. In all, these 5 clinics will nearly double the total number of clinics in Ottawa from 6 to 11, with a combined capacity to administer up to 100,000 doses per week. Expanding operations to this extent would not be possible without unprecedented support from our community partners, including the Ottawa Hospital, CHEO, the Queensway Carleton Hospital, Kids Come First, the University of Ottawa, and the Canadian Tire Centre, amongst many others. All these groups are contributing in different ways to the success of our vaccine rollout, and we sincerely thank them for their continued support and leadership. Ces groupes contribuent de différentes façons au succès de notre déploiement de vaccins. Nous les remercions de leur appui et de leur leadership continu. There are currently appointments available in the provincial system. As always, demand in Ottawa is significant. If you encounter any issues, I encourage you to check back in the system from time to time, as newly available appointments are continually appearing due to cancellations and scheduling changes. More appointments will also become available in our community clinics as additional supply is confirmed by the province. It is also important to remember that you do not need to wait for an appointment in a community clinic. Eligible residents looking for a first or second dose appointment are encouraged to continue to contact primary care provider or a pharmacy. Les résidents admissibles qui cherchent à obtenir une première ou deuxième dose sont invités à communiquer avec une pharmacie ou un fournisseur de soins primaires participant. Every dose administered brings us closer to community immunity. Please remain patient and know that every day thousands of people are being vaccinated. With every dose administered, we're getting closer to reopening our city. Last weekend, we were pleased to see many people enjoying the activities permitted under Step 1 of the provincial reopening plan. A few reminders ahead of this weekend. For those in line at a patio, please remain at least 2 meters distance from anyone outside your household and wear a mask. Limit your gatherings in parks and beaches up to 10 or less, and remember that smoking, vaping, or alcohol are strictly prohibited. Lorsque vous faites la queue dans une terrasse, veuillez maintenir une distance physique de 2 mètres de distance à quiconque à l'extérieur de votre foyer ou portez un masque. Limitez vos rassemblements dans les parcs et les plages à moins de 10 personnes et n'oubliez pas que fumer, vaporiser et boire de l'alcool sont strictement interdits. As always, bylaw and regulatory services and Ottawa Police will continue to monitor for compliance. Our team has proven time and time again, once more vaccines become available, we are ready to ramp up quickly and adapt our operations on vaccine supply from the province. The best way to get more accurate and up-to-date information about our vaccine rollout in Ottawa is through the City and Ottawa Public Health. You can find the information at ottawa.ca and at ottawapublichealth.ca, or follow us on our social media channels. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mr. Demonte. I will now invite questions from each agency alphabetically. You may ask one question with a follow-up. Nous allons maintenant répondre aux questions de chaque organisme par ordre alphabétique. Vous pouvez poser une question et une question de suivi. Again, a reminder to remain on mute until I invite you to ask your question. We'll now start with Ryan Jones at CBC Ottawa.
Hi there. This question is for Dr. Malukny. Just wondering, so Ottawa's not on the list of Delta variant hotspots. So can you just give us an update in terms of where we are at in terms of the spread of the Delta variant in Ottawa? How much of a concern is it? How are we measuring it? And will it become the dominant strain at some point?
Right. So for the Delta variant, and just to back up for a second, so we've had a series of variants. The situation that we had with the last resurgence, we saw an increase of what's now called the Alpha variant, which was first identified in the UK, more transmissible than the original virus that we would have had last year, probably 40 or 50% more transmissible. And with that advantage, it had become and is still the dominant variant that we have here in Ottawa. The way it gets transmitted doesn't change, but it is just more transmissible. So if you give it the opportunity, there's more a chance that you're going to become infected if you're susceptible. The Delta variant, which was first identified in India, has different mutations, and it allows it to be even more transmissible than the Alpha variant. And so that's one of the concerns is that it's a lot more transmissible than the Alpha variant, and therefore way more transmissible than what we would have been experiencing last summer. So that's the first piece. The other concern with the Delta variant is that for people with only one dose, it provides less protection against the Delta variant. And so this is one of the reasons why we are pleased that the second dose scheduling and the availability of vaccines is really important, because one of the ways to deal with the Delta variant is to get as many people to have 2 doses of vaccine as soon as possible. The other way to buy us time, because this variant, because it has more transmissibility, it will likely become the dominant virus here, just as it has already done in England, is to prevent transmission. Because the more opportunities for transmission there are in our community, the more opportunity there will be for the Delta variant to spread. So far, there's not much Delta variant here, and we want to keep it that way. And so that's twofold. One, we have to continue to do public health measures and reduce the risk of transmission. And 2, we need people to be vaccinated and to do it as soon as possible.
Ryan, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, sure. This question is for Mr. DeMonte. This week, we saw some sniping between the mayor and the province about the amount of vaccine doses that Ottawa was receiving. We had the mayor asking for more, and then the province saying there were thousands of doses in freezers. Can you just elaborate a bit about what all that was about, and if you think the disagreement has now been settled with these new deliveries?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, I'm always a person, my focus is on getting needles in arms, and I won't talk about the politics of it, but let me try to perhaps clarify, and I appreciate you asking the question. So we're running a 7-day-a-week operation, and when we receive vaccine, it's all planned and managed to be able to put into arms as quickly as possible. And I'll give you the example I know that was cited was, on the Sunday of that week, we had 23,000 vaccines in our fridges, as it was described. We receive our vaccine every week on Monday. So let me give you the example here so it can be as clear to understand how this operational tempo works. So on Sunday, we need about 12,000 vaccines for the Sunday. So that's part of that 23. And then Monday, we have also people who are coming to get their vaccine. We need another 12,000 to do that day. Normally, we receive our vaccines. We get about 53,000 Pfizer. That's what we've been having historically, over and above what we're getting this week, which is great. But so we get that on Monday somewhere just a little bit before noon. So Mrs. Jones that's coming in the morning to get her vaccine, we need that vaccine. So that's what that other 12,000 is for the day. When we receive the vaccine, it arrives frozen, and we have to do processes. We then distribute it. So that vaccine that we receive on Monday can't be used on Monday. It's only used on Tuesday. So that's what this 23,000 is on Sunday. It's a moment in time. There's no vaccine hidden in fridges or maintained. And I'll just give you an example. That same weekend, I'll give you examples of other public health units that have very similar operations as us 7 days a week. In York Region, there were 43,000 vaccines on the Sunday in their freezers. Peel had 50,000, and Toronto had 114,000. So it's all very normal if you take a moment in time. And as a matter of fact, today we'll be receiving 25,000 Moderna. If you would look at today's numbers, we'll have 25,000. So I just want to reassure people, there's nothing held in fridges. It's just part of the operational tempo. It's very normal. I don't know if people are getting confused or if the back and forth between elected officials is something else, and I don't want to comment on that. I think what's really important to the community is know that when we get vaccine, we put those appointments in the system. You book on them, and as I mentioned previously, we have some 200,000 appointments currently in the system for people up until July 6th. Well, when Mr. Jones is coming next Thursday, those 200,000 vaccines are already accounted for, and they're waiting for them. So our commitment has always been, when you arrive, your vaccine is there. And I think that's what people want to have an assurance. So I just want to reiterate that. And with regards to the back and forth, just finally, as I said, we did get the strategic allocation that we had asked for, and that the mayor also was publicly going back and forth with the province. And I'm very pleased, because that allows us today to publish 60,000 more appointments in the system for the new groups that are coming forward. So this is very good news for our community. And again, be reassured, when we have vaccine, it's posted and it'll be waiting for you when you arrive.
Yeah, Ryan, as the elected official on the panel today, I appreciate Tony doesn't want to talk about politics, and frankly, neither do I really. What I want to focus on is, as Tony indicated, we've got significant supply coming in. We're going to nearly double the number of community clinics. So our focus now, I think, is on the way forward. It's a positive way forward. We have supply, we have clinics set up, we have people booking as we speak, and that's where we want to go. Tony is quite right when he said his goal is to get as many jabs in people's arms as possible, as quickly as possible. That's what we want to do. That's what we need to do. As Dr. Walkley said, this is a race against the variant, and we're on the right track right now. And that's what we need to focus on. Supply is there, clinics are there, booking capacity is there. Let's just do it.
En français, s'il vous plaît, Monsieur Dimonté.
Oui, bonjour. Essentiellement, c'est des nouvelles positives qui, pour les prochaines semaines, on reçoit de plus en plus de vaccins, et donc on rouvre plus en plus de capacité dans le système, et c'est notre objectif. En fait, la discussion qui avait eu lieu, qu'on avait 23 000 vaccins dans nos réfrigérateurs, juste pour vous expliquer un peu le processus, on a une opération qui fonctionne 7 jours semaine, et dont dimanche, on a besoin pour cette journée-là, pour les gens qui ont déjà leur rendez-vous, 12 000 vaccins pour cette journée-là. Et lundi, on a aussi besoin de 12 000 vaccins pour le lundi. Donc, c'est pour ça qu'on a 23 000 vaccins le dimanche, quand on regarde cette journée-là. On reçoit nos vaccins normalement les lundis vers les midis, mais ces vaccins-là sont congelés et doivent suivre un processus de contrôle de qualité et par la suite être distribués. Donc, sont seulement utilisés le mardi. C'est pour ça que Le dimanche, quand on regarde le dimanche, on a le double normalement de vaccins parce qu'on a le double de personnes qui vont venir le dimanche et le lundi pour être vaccinées. Donc, il faut avoir des vaccins disponibles. Et juste pour vous donner un exemple, on est une opération 7 jours semaine. Nous, d'autres groupes de santé publique dans la province, la même journée, donc on cite qu'on avait 23 000. La municipalité régionale de York avait 43 000 dans le réfrigérateur. La région de Peel avait 50 000 et la région de Toronto avait 114 000. C'est très normal parce qu'eux aussi font la même chose. Parce que dimanche et le lundi, on doit vacciner les gens et par la suite, on reçoit. Donc, c'est un processus 7 jours semaine. Je pense qu'on fait de tout ça une complexité, qu'il n'y a pas de complexité à avoir. C'est un processus opérationnel qui est normal pour la distribution des vaccins. Je veux juste terminer en disant que je suis très content qu'on reçoive des vaccins supplémentaires. Aujourd'hui, on va recevoir 25 000 Moderna et par la suite d'autres vaccins en fin de semaine également. Donc, c'est super positif et dans ce sens-là, on rouvre d'autres centres et notre mission et notre objectif demeurent clairs, de donner des vaccins aux gens le plus rapidement possible. Et je veux rassurer les gens, s'ils ont un appointement, le vaccin va être là pour eux lorsqu'ils arrivent par notre processus de gestion de notre vaccin. Merci.
Thank you. We'll now go to Eric O'Brien at City News Ottawa.
Hi, my question is for Mr. DeMonte. What's the rate of no-shows for vaccine appointments in Ottawa, and what's the